Viva Las Vegas, Viva Super Bowl 58. We are live at Allegiant Stadium, and it looks incredible.
Really
John
does.
Lund, Adam Copeland, the voice you hear is a man who's got one of these Super Bowl rings, Dennis Brown. He's going to tell you how the 49ers can get it done over the next few hours. We will take you live, give you all the storylines, talk about what it's been like in Vegas for the first time to have a Super Bowl here. Chiefs and 49ers, of course. A little bit of redemption and revenge for Super Bowl 54. A lot of storylines. Thanks for joining us. YouTube, Twitch. Make sure you're there, and you can get a live view of Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. And this is where we are, gentlemen. Wow.
Yeah, wow. Now, how long have you guys been here? Huh? Let's start there.
Look at Copeland's
Get me
eyes.
out of
How
this
long
city,
do you think?
dude. Get me the hell out of this city, Dennis. I'm done with it, dude, but I'm not done with it until we start. As Tim Ryan would say, filling up that second hand, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, we got here. John got here last Sunday.
Yeah.
I got here last Saturday. And you know about that, man. The 2 weeks in between, the layoff before you get to the game itself is brutal just for a fan. I'm sure it's brutal for a player to have the ramp up. It's even more brutal on the body when you spend that week in Las Vegas getting ready for the game. But, dude, it's been a spectacle this week, man. It's been a lot of fun.
And I've been watching, the local news back in San Francisco, the media day, and all the different things at practice, the drama at the practice. It's a great week as a player. I just can't imagine as a media person, just what you go through. I mean, every day you got to come up with something new. Every day there's something else.
There's nothing
and
new to
Las
talk
Vegas
about, dude.
is Las Vegas.
We just keep saying the same stuff all day, every day, dude. But you're right, dude. As far as like the amount of people who have showed up, you felt it on probably Thursday, John. Like that's when the tides really turned, where it stopped being really media. It stopped being just the week of Super Bowl week, and dude, the fans showed up. I don't know, by the way, of the thousands of people I spoke to and met this week, did any of them tell you they were going to the game? I don't know if I met a single person who's coming to the game itself.
But this is what's going to be interesting, since you brought it up, is that how many of them will transfer into this place? Because I looked on StubHub this morning for, of course, entertainment purposes only, and the get-in price was still around $7,000. Now, if you're thinking about it, you can get an SRO for $3,000, but you don't have a seat and you can walk around the whole game. But look, it's an expensive ticket, but I would say, and again, we did this just because it's our job, walking around all the different hotels all along the Strip and being here for 7, 8 days, you get a good sense of everything. And it's been 49ers fans from the start. Yeah. And I was in Baltimore, Super Bowl 47, Baltimore closer to New Orleans, much more Ravens fans, and they're chanting, duh, 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 duh. It was like by Saturday night, I'm like, I gotta go. And then you were there, Super Bowl 54 in Miami, same thing. I thought there were a lot more Chiefs, and the way I know that was when they did the national anthem and they said, and the home, sorry, I have to sing, and the home of the, and also it was like, Chiefs, and I turned to Greg in the booth and went, uh-oh, this isn't good. So, look, I don't know because of the prices, but hell, we paid outrageous prices for everything in the Bay Area, so what's $7-8 grand for a Super Bowl ticket? But, I do get the sense that even though this has become a major corporate event, and that's who's going to be in these suites and the majority of these good seats, if Joe Sixpack can get at the top, I don't know, but if he can or she can, then I think it's going to be a pro 49ers crowd.
Yeah, and just being on the Strip for the last – I got in on Thursday night, went to the NFL football experience, and all the 49ers stuff sold out. There's plenty of Kansas City stuff, but all the 49ers stuff is sold out. A lot of 49er fans, a lot of the faithful here. My news feed is full of folks saying they're flying in today. Again, I don't know if they're going to make it into the stadium because it is a very expensive ticket. But there's a lot of, it's close. It's an easy flight, less than an hour flight from San Francisco. But there's a lot of faithful here today, and hopefully this stadium is loud.
We'll have plenty to get to in terms of the game itself, but I feel like you go through the ebbs and flows of the week. It's the ups and the downs. You feel a lot of times my mind changes 3 or 4 times in that week between about who I think is going to win the game, or you're on one side of it and you start to move back towards the other side. I would say this, that, and John will, I think, back this up, and people who listen to Radio Row and our shows who are out here all week long, overwhelmingly, everybody in Vegas is telling us Kansas City's going to win this game. Yeah, the Niners are good, but the Chiefs have played better over the last month. And Tom Tolbert and I spent a lot of time this week talking about 17 games or a body of work in a season versus 3 games or the last month of the season. Yeah, you want to be playing your best football right now, and the Chiefs are playing as good as anybody has at this point of the year. That said, top to bottom, from beginning of the year to end of the year, and the Niners finding new ways to win in the last 2 playoff games, both against Green Bay and Detroit, in my mind, bode well for the Niners 49ers, top to bottom. I think the team is deeper. I think they can score more than I think the Chiefs will be able to score. It's going to be about stopping the run of Isaiah Pacheco and making sure that Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel carry the ball a lot and try to go up the gut on these guys. They're missing Joe Tooney, an offensive lineman, so there's a lot to get to in terms of this game. But I woke up today feeling more confident than I had all week long about the Niners' chances to win.
Yeah, and when you talk about this football game, you hit it right there. You got to stop this run.
Yeah.
I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a fantastic quarterback. Kansas City, they don't want to run the ball. That's not their thing. But if they can run the ball, they will run the ball and take advantage of play action. So the challenge, again, we're going to say it. We say it every week. It's won and lost in the trenches. And when I look at this football game and the matchup, I think it's the team that has the least amount of mistakes.
Agreed.
You know, and this is a team, Patrick Mahomes, if you watch him play, they've been on the road this entire playoff run, right? They had to win on the road.
Their first playoff game, they won at home against Miami, and then they went back-to-back games on the road where they were dogs, and they were both outright. Yeah.
And then, you know, the 49ers are the underdogs coming in this game, so maybe you can ride that a little bit. But you can't make mistakes against this football team because it's a very football team, and it's a veteran football team. And guess what? They've been in this position how many times in the last 5 years? I mean, they've won Super Bowls. They've been here. They know what it takes. It's not too big for them. They're not a young football team, and they're a good football team. So I think it's going to come down to who makes the least amount of mistakes in this football game.
Well, in the sense, it's a really weird sense because we were on Radio Row all week long, and the 49ers, depending on where you look, 2.5 to 2-point favorites. Over-under is about 47.5 of the total points scored in the game. But everybody that would come up to your table, and we had probably our best and busiest week as a station. We've been to this thing a lot of times, but when the hometown team is in there, but Monday was the busiest Monday I'd seen, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every day was the busiest because everybody wants to come to Vegas. So we had a great cross-section of people come on the show, and inevitably by the end of it, before you do the Gillette razor ad, you ask somebody, hey, Gillette razors are the best. They really are. So we do 8 minutes of content, 2 minutes of Gillette razors. But before we would let them get
I'm excited to partner with them because, I've always gotten the razor burn myself. And so, to be able to help give back to those less fortunate with less burn.
So,
yes, give.
But before we would let them do their advertisement, we would inevitably say, well, what do you think of the game? And they knew they were on in San Francisco, and they would still say, Chiefs. And you're seeing the majority of the money from the public go to the Chiefs. I'm going to defer to Adam because he certainly knows this. Adam, does the public generally do well? Is Las Vegas built on winners in the public? The sharps, the guys who know, must know something because all the big bets are coming in on the 49ers. And all the public is going in on the Chiefs.
Well, it's like my dad told me first time I ever came to Vegas. He said, you see all those big, pretty buildings with all those flashing lights and all the shiny stuff on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes, think they built that for all the people who are winning so much?
Who are winning
They did it for all you guys? Yeah.
Generally speaking, again, as we did our work all week long by going into these casinos and talking to these people.
Just research, market research.
I love the research you guys probably put in.
I did.
Hard-working team.
I watch people at tables and slots and all the different things you can do. And they're generally not, they're smiling when they sit down. They're generally not smiling when they leave the casino. And so we'll see. I mean, it doesn't mean that one team will win than another, but it does give you a sense as a fan. And I think we all feel this way. Like, how do you feel about the game? How do you feel? You have a sense as a fan. I have a sense that I would rather ride with the guys who are supposed to be the experts than the general public. No offense to the general public. But I feel good about today. And I think the thing that has pushed people towards the Chiefs is two things. Number one, and you know this, if you got the best quarterback, a lot of times you win this game, and nothing against Brock Purdy, but Patrick Mahomes is that level of quarterback. And then the second thing is, let's be honest, they didn't play well against the Packers or the Lions. And so the recency bias of those two games combined with Patrick Mahomes being Patrick Mahomes, I think has pushed the general public heavy to the Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree totally with that. And I think when you look back these last two football games against the Packers and the Lions, you saw two different 49er football teams, right? The first half you saw a team that they didn't show up for a football game, and then second half all of a sudden a light switch was hit, and then you play the kind of football you used to. But I do think if the 49ers can put 30 points on the football or on the scoreboard, I think they win this football game. They do well. I mean, but Kansas City, you got to play good defense because if Kansas City puts 21 points on the board, that's how they win their football game. So on both sides of the ball, I think it's an evenly match. I think on both sides of the ball, you've got some guys that some real big playmakers. But it's going to come down to the trenches. Offensive line against the defensive line. The Chiefs have a very good defense. They have two guys on the outside. They have to have 10-plus sacks.
Well, remember the guy last time.
So that's going to be the thing.
There's a lot of different players in this game. But one of the key matchups, and God, we got hours to do this, but one of the real key matchups just out of the gate, beyond the obvious, is John Feliciano at right guard knocking down the hands of Chris Jones. Because remember, how many times did Jimmy get balls knocked down? And now we're talking Brock, who gets even more balls knocked down. So that's the right guard against the left defensive tackle. Yep. Brock's right-handed. I think that they've got to move Brock around, because if he's – now maybe they don't do it at the beginning, but if Chris Jones did what he did in Super Bowl 54 – then they're going to have to figure out another way so that Brock can get clean balls down the field.
Well, you talked about the flipping of the switch in the second half against Detroit, Dennis. We'll talk more about this as we get through the pregame here. How much does Steve Spagnuolo and that defensive line have to account for Brock Purdy's legs? Does it make it more difficult for them? Is it something that the 49ers will use, or is it just a tool in Brock's bag that when things break down, he can make you pay? Adam Copeland, John Lund, and the Super Bowl champion, hoping to add more to that list with Dennis Brown today. We are live from Allegiant Stadium here in Las Vegas, Nevada, ahead of Super Bowl 58. There he is. Christian McCaffrey is arriving.
Oh, wearing black again.
Oh, dude, wearing all black.
Black
again.
He's got the pinstripes on, too. I like it.
Well, he is serious.
Oh, not the
today.
pinstripes. That's gangster.
I mean, seriously, how serious does Christian McCaffrey look walking in, man?
All business for the 49ers who are looking to take
you know what he looks? He's got the
Super Bowl
striped black suit. That's like mob.
Yeah,
looking.
that's the pinstripe.
That's Vegas mob.
Yeah.
Wow.
R.I.P. I just killed the club, said Christian McCaffrey. Adam Copeland, John Lund, Dennis Brown with you. We are
I didn't know what to say after that.
Twitch.tv/TheSportsLeader, YouTube at KMBR 1045, KMBR.com, and the KMBR app. We have plenty more to come. 808 KMBR. You can hit us on the YouTube chat as well. How we feeling, 49er fans? What's your pick of the score today? Who's your MVP? We got plenty more to come. And John said we got hours. John, we actually have an actual countdown. It's sitting right up here on our YouTube chat.
Very nice.
But I can see the live one out there. 4 hours, 26 minutes, and 18, 17, 16.
I don't know how you guys settle down, because I'm amped up.
I'm fired up now.
I'm amped up.
Well, I mean, I'm excited too, but it's we have no control over it.
But
we can be excited, but it's played on the field, man.
And I know you have too. Like, we had a lot of players on this week, as we always do, and both won and lost Super Bowls, and to a man, I think all of them said, especially in your first one, is you've got to learn the day of the game to settle down and to get your heart down, because you can burn yourself out before the game even hits, right?
Don't peak too soon. You got to be able to kind of manage that. A lot of young guys, and this is great because this is a veteran football team. A lot of these older guys can let guys know, just don't peak too soon. Don't peak too soon. Just pace yourself, get on the field, get warmed up, get a sweat going, and when the game comes, you launch it.
Don't peak too soon. I wish you had told me that before I landed in Vegas last Saturday night, Dennis. Day 9, it rolls on here from Las Vegas. Super Bowl 58, and we've got it all coming your way right here on KMBR 1045 and 680. It's the Sports Leader.
I'm trying to keep it simple, but at the end of the day, it's like, dude, you're playing in the Super Bowl in your second year. Like, we got a good team around you. You know, I don't want to get down the road of my life and be like, man, you should have, you could have, you would have. Like, win or lose, it's going to all happen for a reason. I believe that. But more than anything, I want to enjoy the moment and give it my all and not look back and regret that I didn't give it my all. So that's where I'm at.
Adam Copeland, the Super Bowl champion. Dennis Brown, John Lund with you live from Allegiant Stadium ahead of Super Bowl 58. 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs, a rematch of Super Bowl 54 from 4 years ago. Niners looking for a little bit of payback here. The Chiefs looking to become back-to-back Super Bowl champions. This is their third in 5 years or third in 4 years now that the Chiefs have been to. They go every damn year, it seems like. I was talking to a guy this week from Kansas City media, and he goes, yeah, dude, this is like every year we do this. He's like, it's just kind of a regular thing. We come out, we say what's up at the Super Bowl, and then we go home usually with a trophy. Patrick Mahomes, a fourth Super Bowl appearance for him. That's already tied for third most in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, a fantastic. I mean, this is the dynasty team. I mean, when you think about it, and this is a Kansas City team that in the beginning of the season we were all thinking, oh, you know, they're missing some stuff. Mahomes is not putting up the numbers. The offense is not clicking like it usually is. You know, you lose some players in the offseason. The defense is not playing, you know, up to par. But at the end of the day, you know, end of the season, you know, you're in the playoffs, and then you, like we talked about, you win your first, you know, your wild card game, then you go on the road, and now you're at the Super Bowl. So they found a way to win, to put it together. Great coach. You know, we talk about the quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. He could be the best. One of the best right now in the National Football League. So this is a team that's really fought some challenges this entire football season, but yet again, they've done it. So that's a sign of a good football team.
John, in your mind, and we were just talking, you mentioned Andy Reid. We'll go through all layers of this thing.
Yeah.
But in your mind, John, what does this mean for Kyle Shanahan if he wins this one?
Well, unfairly or not, this is just the way that it is for Kyle. He was up 28-3 in Atlanta, and he lost. And Brock gets hurt last year against Philadelphia. And, you know, Jaquaski drops an interception. And he's starting to kind of get that reputation, kind of like his dad did in Denver.
Kind of like Andy Reid had.
Yeah, they get close, they can't win. So, look, I'm not legacy guy. But at some point what starts to happen is the teams who never won it up until Denver did, but the Bills who got to so many, they start labeling you with these kind of things, and it's how is he going to find a way to lose this year? I mean, look, this very team 4 years ago, and even though they're very different, there are enough players remaining, and the Niners are wearing white again, and the Chiefs wearing red again. So I mean, there are a lot of similarities. Look, we were in the radio booth in Miami, and Raheem Mostert scored, and it was 20-10, and we all looked at each other in there, and we knew that Kansas City had come back all those playoff games that year. And he shall remain unnamed, and it certainly wasn't me, but somebody in the broadcast booth turned around and lipped it, didn't say it, but lipped it, but I still think it's the same. I think we're going to win. And I said, no, you can't say that. And then, you know, Jet Wasp and everything else. That's not Kyle's fault. He didn't stumble defensively. He didn't miss, you know, the Jimmy throw to Sand. He didn't do any of that. But you start to get labeled as a guy who can't win the big one, and I don't care. You're a human being. Do you start believing that? You know, there was pieces written, Seth Wickersham of ESPN and others, that this is a really important Super Bowl for Kyle to win, and I agree because I think if Kyle, you mentioned Andy Reid. Andy Reid was along that same thing. Once you win one, I think you can relax, and I think you can, and that will permeate throughout the entire team, and then you just expect to win. Dennis, the Chiefs are a lot like your teams. They expect to win today because they've done it before. They did it last year. The Niners, I think, believe they're going to win and hope they can win, but they haven't done it. So I think experience does matter, both from a coaching standpoint, where Kyle at times has been a little tight in these situations. Andy Reid's going to be looser. He's not going to be Dan Campbell loose. He's going to be smart. He would have kicked that field goal on 4th and 3, but then on a 4th and 2, he might go for it. He's a smarter player, or a smarter coach in terms of being aggressive. He's aggressive, not reckless. Dan Campbell was reckless. So how will Kyle, knowing all those things, will Kyle coach differently? Will Kyle be tight? One thing we do know is that because halftime is so long with Usher today, it's 29 minutes total, they'll actually re-script again. So they re-script to start the game. Then they don't do this at halftime because they don't have time during the regular season or playoffs. They're actually, both coaches will re-script first 15 again at halftime today. So again, will Kyle then be settled down and then, okay, we're in a good flow here, and then he, comes out with 15 more. So a long way to answer your question of what does this mean for Kyle. I think it's massive because you start to get labeled a guy who can't win the big one, and whether he ever wants to admit it to us or not, which he won't, you do feel it. I think you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you look back these last couple of weeks, and we talk about experience, right? You look at the Packers, a young football team. They came in, they were woo. Second half, you come out. I think some of the experience for the 49ers, takes charge a little bit. Like now we know, we did our adjustments. Now we can focus on the football game. We can play decent football game. Now we can take over. You guys, Green Bay Packers, you're a young team. You don't understand what it takes. You got to play 4 quarters in the football game. That's when the experience takes. It was advantage San Francisco 49ers, and then the Lions come in, another young football team, and they do the same thing. You shoot your wad in the first half, but there's 4 quarters in the football game, and that experience takes over. So today it's going to be interesting as far as the chess match. Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid. You just talked about the experience with Andy Reid. What do you do? Halftime now, you got to make your adjustments. It's going to be adjustments on both sides. On defense, are you going to blitz more? Are you not going to blitz? So it's going to be interesting how the chess match works in this football game because Kyle Shanahan, young coach, but he's still very experienced. He's been in these situations before, and Andy Reid, who's been there, he's done it, he's won it, that experience. So it's going to be great to see what the chess matches are.
Well, there's one guy in this broadcast booth who's played in a Super Bowl, and he's wearing the ring, Dennis Brown. Dennis, what do you remember most about that day?
I remember just the preparation. I remember the week before the Super Bowl, and this was Steve Young. You saw after the game, get the monkey off the back, different things like that. But it was Steve Young, and it was the veterans on the football team just getting us prepared and getting us ready for this football game. And that week of practice was flawless. I mean, the ball didn't hit the ground. There was no mistakes. It was just, we were so focused. And that's the game was the game. At halftime, to be very honest, that game was over. We had defeated San Diego. They were done. They were done playing football. We knew it at that point. Natron Means was out the game. Humphreys wasn't doing it. It was a done deal. But I remember that week preparing for this football game, getting ourselves focused. And we were in Miami. A lot of stuff going on in Miami. Yeah. We were so focused during the football week preparing for the football game. That's how I remember. The game was the game. It was great, fireworks and all that great stuff. But that week before was amazing to me.
In terms of what they're going to see today with Patrick Mahomes, you mentioned the run earlier, and we'll dive into him a little bit deeper. We'll do the quarterback comparison and all that. But a couple of the throws he made, and we were together for doing the pregame for the NFC Championship while he's playing against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in the AFC title game. A couple of the throws that you and John and I were in marvel or just in awe of. The one he hits Kelsey on the hip in the end zone. Yeah. He has the one where he scrambles around, then he steps back up and he kind of throws it off one leg to a diving Kelsey. What can you do to a guy like that who's that elusive? By the way, for a D-line and a team and a crew of linebackers who appear to have been missing a lot of tackles the last few years.
Yeah, and it's going to be key to get him on the ground because you know what he can do.
Yeah.
If he's going to run around, he's going to make plays down the field. He can carry you with his legs. I mean, he's not going to be the fastest guy on the football field, but he can get first downs when he needs first downs, right? He's going to run around back. He's going to make the throws. I mean, they're going to off the back foot, side arm, all the different things. And he does it well. And he does it consistently. So it's not luck throws. I mean, he's got some type of talent, some type of skill set that he can make those throws. You got to get him on the ground. You got to wrap him up. You have to have very disciplined pass rush lanes against him. You got to get him on the ground because he's going to be throwing the ball going down, behind his head, and you got to get him on the ground. You got to get to him right away. Collapse the pocket in the middle. Guys on the outside have that contained, but you got to get him on the ground because if he's running around, he's going to throw the ball down the field.
It's a different-looking Chiefs offense than the one we saw 4 years ago. It's a different one than we've seen really under Mahomes and Andy Reid for their entirety of their run and their tenure together. The Chiefs average a touchdown and a half, 1.3 touchdowns fewer per game this year than they did per game last year. They're one of the worst offensive teams scoring-wise in the second half of games all season long. They rank in the bottom 3 in second-half scoring. The 49ers are the best scoring team in the second half of games this season.
Well, there's a definite formula numbers-wise, so everybody get your pencils and pens out. There's a theme with the Chiefs, as you just pointed out. Yep. It's not the same offense as Super Bowl 54. They don't have the explosiveness Tyreek Hill. When they lost games this year, they averaged 16.8 points per game on offense and never scored more than 20, and they scored 20 once. 14-4, they lost the turnover in losses this year. They never won the turnover battle in a loss, and they were -10. But here's your key, and you just pointed it out, Dennis. In 6 losses this year, Mahomes, 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. His average quarterback rating was 72.6, and he never had a game higher than 79.1. To put that in perspective, Bryce Young was the worst starter in the league this year and played at 73.7. his average quarterback rating was 72.6. So look, I'm not saying it's Mahomes' fault because it isn't. But early in the season when they were losing games, Rashee Rice, Kelsey was in and out of the lineup. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who we know as Butterfingers, was dropping the ball. They were having a lot of trouble. They're different than that now. But that's not one loss or two losses. That's 6, where Mahomes had 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And the opponent, and this is the big part to me, averaged 31 rushes for 131 yards. Baltimore in the AFC Championship game had designed runs to running backs 6 times. 6. And that was a team that led the league in rushes and yards. What the hell were they doing? For some reason, they went into the game thinking, they think we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Kyle's not going to do that. But the main point of here is you've got to get Mahomes somehow. He had 2 interceptions in Super Bowl 54. People forget that.
No.
He did not play a good game. He was 26 of 46, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a QB rating under 80. You have got to somehow emulate that performance but finish better, because he obviously in the playoffs has played well and everybody's Mahomes. But that's 6 times that he didn't play well this year. And in Super Bowl 54, if you tell me Mahomes goes 26 of 46 for 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions today, I'll take it right now.
The Chiefs, again, as I mentioned, have had trouble at times scoring this season. They're just not a high-octane offense in the way that we've become accustomed to seeing them. And again, I think the 49ers have more weapons on offense than they do. I don't think there's any question when you're talking Isaiah Pacheco's the guy to stop. We'll talk more about this. We'll take a quick break.
That plus the stuff coming around the edge.
Exactly. And that's where they've lost in the last couple of weeks.
Exactly. They're gonna look at the Lions and Packers film, and really the more relevant game is 44-23 in Christian McCaffrey's first game in 2022.
Yep.
Because it was McCole Hardman with those 3 touchdowns. Now Hardman's on the team, but he's not near the player.
They were way wide on him though.
Yeah.
Right, that game.
And what they could potentially do, and former 49er Richie James or somebody from the outside, Valdez-Scantling, could try to, or is going to test that edge early and say, are the 49ers, and specifically is Chase Young, are they changing that up enough so that they can stop the outside stuff? Because they're really not an outside zone team. Pacheco is a between the tackles runner.
Yeah.
So then they use other guys to threaten the edge.
Yeah, and that's going to be key. That edge, keeping that contained, and not getting collapsed down and making that corner real short. What they did the last couple weeks against the Packers in the line.
Guys, this might be in the how many pre-games have we done together this year now? We did all 3 of the preseason games, right? Then you tack in the
20-plus playoffs,
20-plus playoffs.
Preseason, regular.
So it's like 24 for us or something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know that we've got a half hour of any pregame and not mention Brock Purdy. We're live from Allegiant Stadium here ahead of Super Bowl 58. We're going to talk some Brock Purdy when we come on back. How about this? He looks to become the 2nd youngest quarterback in the history of the NFL to win a Super Bowl. If the Niners win today, he'll be younger than Patrick Mahomes was when they beat the 49ers back in 2020, actually the very beginning of 2020. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, the Super Bowl champion, and of course, John Lund with you. We are streaming twitch.tv/thesportsleader YouTube. See all 400-plus you guys who have tuned in here on the YouTube channel. 808 KMBR. Give us your score prediction. I see it. What's this? It's X. It's X. It says 41-17 Niners. I like it. More to come here. KMBR 104.5 and 680. It's the Sports Leader.
And so you look at Brock, and Brock doesn't look like Josh Allen, doesn't look like Lamar Jackson, doesn't look like Patrick Mahomes from an athletic standpoint or from an arm talent standpoint. And so we automatically, because of how we're looking at the quarterback position, look at him and go, he doesn't measure up. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, is that he doesn't measure up from an athletic standpoint. But that's not what the quarterback position is about. Quarterback position is about doing and making the throws and the decisions that you have to make for your team to win. But those are the two reasons I believe that I was looked at a little bit differently, even though I did it in my second year, first year, full year starting. And Brock is in that same mold.
I was the voice of Kurt Warner, a Super Bowl champion in his own right, a Hall of Famer. He was on with KNBR earlier this week with Murph and Marcus at Radio Row from the Mandalay Bay Convention Center in Las Vegas. And we are here, myself, Dennis Brown, John Lund, live from Allegiant Stadium ahead of Super Bowl 58. The 49ers looking for their 6th Super Bowl title, and they'll have to beat Patrick Mahomes, who's going for his 3rd in his 4th Super Bowl start. Quick check here on the YouTube chat. A lot of people checking in. Alex checks in, says, wasn't McCall Hardman a Jet this year? Yeah, he was for part of the year, and then got flipped back over to the Kansas City Chiefs. Our guy Rockin' New Era says 31-28 Niners. Flash Ray Video says go Niners. This is our year. Jonah G 35-14 for the Niners. Somebody else says put up that Purdy 30. They're looking for the 30 from Purdy today is what they want, John. One guy just goes Raiders. Knock Andrew checks in with the Raiders. We're gonna light the flame today for the Niners. I'll tell you that much. We had a whole bunch of great guests. What you got, Dennis?
Well, it's interesting because you talk about the Raider fans, and this is their stadium. And I'm sure, there's probably some Raider fans that actually live here, but we were at the experience yesterday, and we saw a guy taking a picture of a bunch of 49er fans in front of the helmet, and he had his Raiders jacket on, and walked up behind him. I said, you mad, bro? He goes, yeah, I'm mad.
He's upset, dude. We will get more into this game, but we had a lot of great guests on KNBR earlier this week. Chris Mad Dog Russo, you see him all over ESPN. Of course, he does his Sirius XM show and whatnot. Anyway, we asked Mad Dog about what else the San Francisco 49ers.
Little Niners football, huh?
It's fun, man. It's been fun.
There's a big game for Shanahan.
So let me ask you this. We talked about this. What does this mean for him going forward, like in practical terms?
I think he needs to win one of these games eventually. Bud Grant never won one of these games. Marv Levy never won one of these games. Chuck Knox never got into one of these games. I mean, eventually you got to go out there, you got to win. And he's a great coach. Yep. I'm not disputing, and he will probably eventually. And he doesn't have a Hall of Fame quarterback like, of course, Reed does. And he's a great coach. Nobody's going to argue that. But he lost to the Rams. All right, Garoppolo, I understand. He lost to the Chiefs. He blew a lead. All right, Garoppolo had Sanders wide open. He missed him, and it wasn't his defense fell apart. But he still lost. He lost, last year you can't get on him because of the injuries. But that Atlanta game still stings. I know he's the coordinator, but, they had a 28-9 lead in the fourth quarter. You're an offensive coordinator with Matt Ryan, a quarterback, and you're up by 3 scores. Even if it is Brady, you got to figure out a way to sort away the game. And he's got to take a little responsibility for that. Now, again, I'm a big fan. We always play his cuts after games. He's very good. I'm not sure if he's good with the media.
He's great.
He is good. He comes on. Everything else.
Every week.
Fantastic.
With us.
With you guys? He seems like a very good. But to me, as a sports fan, looking at this, trying to analyze where you are with these coaches, eventually he's got to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And, listen, this is going to be a hard one because Mahomes is Mahomes. He's a magician.
No doubt about it. And I thought of it a little bit differently after I realized Andy Reid was with Philly for 14 years and didn't win until he got to Kansas City.
Fair.
And he kind of had that moniker where, the greatest to never win one. And then when he won one, and then he wins another one, now all of a sudden he goes from that to the best coach in football. So, it changes like that. It really does.
Sometimes when you get that first one, the flood doors open and you win a lot more than just the one. He didn't have a great quarterback in Philly with McNabb.
Yep.
He doesn't have a great quarterback here. He's done a great job with Purdy. But I don't like the way the Niners have played these first couple of games. I mean, even to go back to the Raven game, they weren't great there. They did not play. They were lucky against Green Bay. Love stunk at the end of the game.
Yep.
5 for 9, 30 yards, and 2 picks.
Yep.
That's a bad game. And let's be honest, this is me now talking. Campbell's got to kick a field goal, too, here in this fourth quarter. Second half.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He kicks a field goal there, and he kicks that first field goal at 27-10. I'm not sure if the Niners come back from that.
That was a turning point, I thought.
Oh, I thought so, too.
Yep.
Go up by 3 scores. So you can make an argument that the Chiefs beat Buffalo and Baltimore on the road. Mm-hmm. The Niners beat Green Bay and Detroit. So you can make an argument that maybe they haven't had as tough, that they haven't played nearly as well as the Chiefs. Now, the other side of it is Green Bay and Detroit both beat Kansas City. You know, Green Bay beat Kansas City on a Sunday night.
Detroit opening night. Yeah.
Opening night. So you can go there, too, if you wish. But if it was me, if I was a Niner fan, I'd be a little concerned of how they got out of the postseason. And remember, McCaffrey told everybody after the Green Bay game, we know we were lucky. We'll play better next week. We were fortunate. And then they got outplayed by the Lions for three quarters. That's what would worry me a little bit.
First, Mad Dog Russo joins us here at Radio Row. He's been one of the most influential figures in sports talk radio for nearly 40 years. He joins Sirius XM in 2008 to create and headline the exclusive all sports talk channel Mad Dog Sports Radio. And he hosts Mad Dog Unleashed weekdays 3 to 6 Eastern. Give me your take on Steve Wilks and how the defense is played.
Yeah, I love Will. Wilks should have gotten that Carolina job. When they got rid of him. That wasn't right. He had done a good job. He kept the team together, but that owner's nuts. You can't work for him. That's why Canales got the job from Tampa. Nobody wants it. Who wants to work for him? I mean, he goes 7 games, they'll fire you if you're 0-7. So, I mean, that's I feel bad for Wilks there. The defense hasn't played that great either. I mean, how many defensive penalties you can have in the backfield against Green Bay? They had passed at 3rd and 20. He's got a pass interference that gets an automatic first down. I didn't love them either. Again, I don't like the way the Niners have played out in the last 4 or 5 weeks. You want to say it's no big deal. The idea is to advance. They play a lot better here. They owe the Chiefs one. They should have won in 19. Chiefs scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. So they owe them one. You want to say that? I can buy it. And maybe we'll say that Sunday night. But Tommy, we would definitely agree. They have not played that well in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
I agreed.
So give me your thoughts on Purdy, because this has been a huge national discussion pretty much the whole year. And I feel like some of the people that don't want to give him the credit that he's earned have planted the flag, and they're going to stick by it. And anytime he has a bad game, they're going to go back to it. I don't know why you get dinged for the weapons you have, because I never remember hearing that Peyton Manning had Edgerrin James, Wayne
Harrison,
Dallas Clark.
Yep.
Like you didn't hear that. Like I never remember. One of my favorite teams growing up, Dan Fouts. It wasn't. He had Muncie, he had Winslow, he had Joyner, he had Jefferson, he had Chandler. It was just he was really good. So I feel like he takes a look. And then the game manager thing. I think that all quarterbacks are game managers to some extent. And if he's a system quarterback, every quarterback has a system that they got to run. I just think some of it's kind of piling on.
I think there's some truth to that. He's played really well. I think the fact that Shanahan makes him such a – see, I think Purdy's play is you don't praise Purdy, you praise Shanahan, because they think he's the last pick in the draft, and look at Shanahan's figured out a way to get Purdy to play over his head. So instead of giving the credit to Purdy, I think a lot of people give the credit to the system of Shanahan.
Yeah.
Now, I think the 2 knocks on Purdy, they were 0-3 when he had a couple guys hurt. When the Brown, now Moody missed a field goal.
Yep.
But he didn't play
downfield.
Yeah, he did, but he didn't play great in the game.
No, he didn't.
He took a couple picks.
And he played Minnesota and then the Cincinnati game. So, I mean, people look at that a little bit.
Yep.
And, let's be honest. If Green Bay holds on to the ball early in the game and a pick 6, he might lose the game.
True.
So I think that's what people go to. But, he did go 6 of 7 on their last drive against the Packers. And, of course, Kittle's dropped the pass.
Yep.
He played very well. The ball hit the face mask, okay, but that's a tough catch. He played well against Detroit. I think he's a good quarterback.
Yep.
I'm not ready to say he's an elite quarterback, but obviously you can win with him because they're in the Super Bowl right now, and they very easily could win this game.
Yep.
So you can win with him. I also get the impression, if I'm a Niner fan, I take this to heart, I don't think he's going to be psyched out for the game. He doesn't strike me as a guy that's going to be a little overwhelmed by playing against Mahomes in this game. So I think that bodes well. Some of these quarterbacks coming to this game, they get stage fright. It's a big, McNabb did a couple times.
Yep.
It's a scary game.
Yeah.
I don't think he will do that, so that bodes well.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, he's good. You can't call a guy great after 2 years. I don't even care what you've done. And every quarterback out there has had a couple games or so that they look back on and go, God, I wish I wouldn't have done this. I wish I wouldn't have done that. I just feel like people – and it's always been harder. If you're the number 1 pick in the draft, you're going to get more chances. I think everybody's waiting for the bubble to burst.
I think so too.
They don't want to buy in. They don't really believe what they see. And from us watching it for 2 years now, I mean, this is who he's been pretty much for 2 years.
And remember, he would not have signed with the Niners if they did not draft him because they had Lance. He wouldn't have gone signed with him because he didn't what he played.
Yep.
So they had to take him with that last pick, and so they made the right move. Listen, I think. McCaffrey, Kittle, Samuel, Ayuk is great. Their offensive line's been a little spotty, but we know Williams has been very good. McCaffrey's the best back in football. I mean, they got a lot of weapons, and the Chiefs really have offensively. They got Pacheco, they got Kelsey, and all of a sudden they got Rice. That's it.
Yep.
So the Niners they got the better roster. But if you give the Chiefs the edge in this game, it's because of the coach. You have to give Reed the edge over Shanahan.
Yep.
He's won it, and he's very good off buys too. Don't forget.
Yeah, very good.
They keep that in mind. Was
the best ever.
18-3, whatever it is.
Like
He's
that,
very good off buys. And of course, they got Mahomes. And I've said this for weeks on the air, and people are killing me on it. They can kill me all they want. Bottom line is, I've been watching football since the Ice Bowl. It's a longer than you. That's a long.
I did not watch the Ice Bowl.
That's
I recorded it and watched it when I was 7.
New Year's Eve. I was 8. I watched the game. And Star, the greatest mind over matter drive of all time. They had 9 straight 3-and-outs before that last drive.
Did they really?
And he went 68 yards in 3:38, calling his own plays, and scored the touchdown against a defense. That was a good defense. Cowboys, Cornell Green, Renfro, Lilly, Jethro Pugh. Those are, and he went down the field. That Ray Scott told me that greatest mind over matter drive in the history of the NFL. So I saw that game. Mahomes is the best for one game. He's the best quarterback I've ever seen. I don't care what anybody. I know Brady's got 7. Nobody's going to catch him. I understand that, and I love Montana. 4-0, 11 touchdowns, no picks in the Super Bowl. I know that. I was at the first game that he won. 55-10 game.
That was
the
the
Broncos
game.
yeah.
I was at that game. First one.
Game.
But I know how great he is. But from the running and his instinctiveness, I think this guy's all time.
Well, it's funny because
I'm with you.
we've talked about it, Chris, and I've talked about this a lot. When we talk about the greatest of all time from a quarterback position, I've never used that term. I used among the greatest of all time because I want to know how Marino would have done if he'd had Walsh as his coach and he had played in that 49er system. Brady gets credit for winning the Super Bowl against Seattle when he was on the sidelines when they won it because they didn't hand the ball off. They threw it. Like, his stats got no better or no worse, but that play determined whether he wins or loses. And I've always hated the quarterback win stat because so much happens when they're not out there.
It's a little bit like the center in the NBA.
Yeah.
Ewing gets hit in New York. He never won a championship.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a little bit like that, and it's probably a little too much emphasis on that. 100%. I remember Brady did take the Patriots back. They were losing that game to Seattle, and he got them back in the game.
No doubt. But my point is the game was decided while he had his helmet.
For 500 yards in the Super Bowl and lost.
Yeah,
and he's credited with an L.
And he played. I'll tell you, the thing about Brady, the best game I ever saw, the best game in a losing effort I ever saw Brady play, his guts, was the first Giant game. The Giants killed their offensive line. He got killed in that game, and he hung in there, and he almost hit the ball to Moss, which would have at least tied the game. He played so well in that game. Listen, Brady, listen, you can't. Brady's great. I might take Montana over him, but that's just me. Yeah. They're both phenomenal players, and I think Mahomes is on that level. I think he will be at the end of the day. He won't win 7.
Yeah.
7's too many.
Yeah.
You're not going to win 7. But here's what people have told me today. Chris, if he loses, he's 2-2 in the Super Bowl. Yeah, because they lost to Tampa. Yep. And you think about that, the all-time greatest usually don't go 2-2 in the Super Bowl. So maybe if you look at a little pressure on him too.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
I think the Chiefs will win a close game. I'm not going to bet against Mahomes.
Yeah,
it's tough. How many did Elway lose before he got 2?
He lost 3. He lost to Washington, the Giants,
and the Niners.
And the Niners.
Yeah, and then he wins it 2 at the very end.
Chris, thank you so much.
Thanks for
we love you guys, boy.
So
my station, KNBR, baby.
Thanks, Chris.
Well, he's fired up.
Yeah, he's fired up. He is all fired up.
That's how Russo wakes up.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man. He's crazy.
Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you live from Allegiant Stadium. That was just one of the many names and voices we heard and met at Radio Row this week. We've got plenty more to come. We got to get into who's hot in this one for the Niners and the Kansas City Chiefs. Pregame rolls on as we're only, guys, 3 hours and 51 minutes or so.
Hey, and we've got fans in the stands,
in their seat.
Look at this. We got 3 hours and we got folks in their seats already.
We are off and we are running. The game not quite yet. More to come here. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund. We'll officially get the pregame going when we come on back here on the Sports Leader.
No, we're just getting ready for this game. I don't think last Super Bowl has anything to do with this game, just like last week doesn't have anything to do with this game. What's good about the guys who have been here before, especially the younger guys who came here, they can talk to the younger guys who are coming now and kind of tell them how they felt at that time and then how you feel after. I mean, it's a cool week. You get caught up in a lot of stuff, but, I mean, you don't remember all this stuff. You remember the game. And people, for the rest of their lives, should remember that game if you won that game. And that's really all that matters. And you can say that, but it's cool when people have gone through that, so people tend to listen more. And that is the truth. That's how it goes. And all this stuff's fun and neat, but you forget all this stuff. It all passes. What you remember is who won or lost that.
As the voice of 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan looking for his first victory in a Super Bowl as a head coach, I guess as a coordinator. Also, everybody talks about the 28-3, the Falcons and the Pats, but we're past that. I guess none of that matters, man. Not last week, not that game, not 4 years ago, not really even anything that happened this season. What happens and what's important, and Dennis, you talked about it as you lead into this game, it was all about preparation. Right. The week of the game for the last 2 weeks, you said you guys had some of the best practices you'd ever had. You were as sharp as you guys had ever been. The 49ers had some weird noise this week. They had the field situation where never a good thing when something's described as spongy. You know what I mean? Did
you go on the field?
I didn't see. No, I did not see. Were you on the field? Did you check that field out? You see the field?
I never did. But apparently, for those in the know, they were supposed to have some piece of like hard plastic. So it's a field, and then there's a grass on top of it, and it was really soft. But what they forgot to do, I guess, was supposed to be weeks in advance, and especially with all the rain down here, is they're supposed to put some hard plastic thing that firms the field. Well, it didn't. It didn't get put in, and so what happened was the field went into the turf, and there was nothing to make it a harder type. So they practiced on a soft turf field. Meanwhile, and the 49ers don't want to make this excuse, the Chiefs practice at the Raiders facility, which mimics this exact field you're going to be playing on. So one team was outside in the rain with a spongy field. Yeah, right. One team was on the exact surface basically going to be playing on. But they complained once. They figured out nothing was going to be done of it. and then they tried to downplay it because they don't want to be seen as, hey, we're trying to make excuses.
Right. And then the NFL came in, too, saying that we looked at the field and it passed all yada, 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 yada. But,
per us, it passed our standards.
Yeah.
I didn't understand
the NFL, and we know their standards. We know NFL's, I guess, we should.
For us, it was good enough for us.
But, that's the challenge. I mean, it builds character. I mean, a soft field. I mean, we played on Candlestick infield. So,
man.
The field is.
Yeah, you're like, whatever, guys.
When I first heard it, that's what I was saying, which is kind of mean. But I was thinking, hey, listen, I mean, this is the Super Bowl. I mean, whatever you're going to be able to practice on, I mean, the field doesn't. I mean, the field matters, but preparing yourself mentally, that's what matters in this football game, and getting yourselves ready to play the most important football game in your career as far as this season goes. Some of these guys are going to play other Super Bowls, but this is the most important game in your career right now. Get yourself mentally ready. And all that field and all that stuff, it won't be an excuse. Because when the game is over, no one talks about the runner-up. You always talk about the winner. So you always want to be the winner because runner-ups get forgotten.
You are listening to myself, Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, the Super Bowl champion, and John Lund. We are live from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas ahead of Super Bowl 58, which, by the way, you'll hear in its entirety right here with Greg Papa and Tim Ryan on KMBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader. Let's look at Who's Hot, sponsored by Valley Heating, Cooling, Electrical, and Solar. Locally and family owned for 61 years. Guys, we've done this, as I said, 24 times or something throughout the year. I frequently pick the best one, but I'll give you an opportunity, Dennis, to tell me who you think is hot or needs to be hot coming into this game.
Well, let's do them both. I think Nick Bosa is a guy that's hot.
Yeah.
Last week he kind of recorded the only 49ers sacks. Getting to Jared Goff twice in the excuse my you
got to him twice. You got it.
Getting to Jared Goff twice, very important times in the football game. He is hot. He needs to be a guy that this defense can lean on today. Chase Young's got to get hot. He's got to get. I don't think he's had a sack. We haven't seen him have a sack since since the first week he got him, maybe the second week he got here. He needs to get to the quarterback. Important today. He needs to tackle better. He needs to play the run. If you're going to down block on him, he's got to be able to play that. So he's got to get hot. Nick Bosa needs to stay hot. This defensive line has to play really well today.
I don't think there's any doubt. I'll go to the other side of the ball since you went there.
Okay.
I think the guy who has to be really hot today is Christian McCaffrey. I think if the 49ers are going to win the game, obviously the quarterbacks are obvious as MVPs, but he could be a real candidate. I know 30 sounds high, but I think he needs to tote it 20, catch 5 or 6, so 25 to 30 touches for him. And one guy, and if he's fully healthy, this is a guy to watch, Deebo Samuel. He was major in the game plan against the Packers, and it threw the 49ers for a loop. They kind of had him in there lukewarm. Today, full out Deebo, there's no tomorrow, so I expect Deebo to catch 5 or 6, but I expect Deebo in setting that physical tone against Kansas City early and getting some runs to offset, because when 19 goes in one motion and 23 goes in another, what do you do as a defense? So I think they'll establish Deebo, kind of like Super Bowl 54. In the first quarter, they established him. Kansas City never slowed that down. So again, these are two different teams. I get that, but Deebo Samuel was great the first half of that game. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Kyle went with heavy Deebo, especially early.
He had a couple of huge plays. He did have a little end around, a nice break in the first Super Bowl against the Chiefs back in 2019 into 2020, of course. All right, for who's hot, I'm going to go with the quarterback, man. I'm going to go with number 13, Brock Purdy, dude. I thought last week, and I know we talked to Greg Cosell this week, and he said that Lions game, he didn't think he played all that great. I thought they just had a really tough time getting rhythm going. And then to your point about going away from the run a little bit, I know people were upset about that. You're down 24 points, you're down 17 points. It's tough to say we got to keep establishing the run. Now, the thing that's funny about that is frequently they'll say you got to commit to the run, you got to establish the run because it sets up play action. I don't think the 49ers ever have to do that. They know who Kyle Shanahan is. They know who Christian McCaffrey is. The opposition knows that if he's in the backfield and guys are in motion, there's a damn good chance you're going to hand it to him. You're going to play action to him. There's going to be somebody flares out wide open. It happens all across the field, game in and game out. So for me, Brock Purdy being able to deliver the mail. Sometimes, and we said this for the first 2 months of the season, there are times where the best moves a quarterback makes are the ones where he just doesn't give the ball over. He doesn't give the ball away. He operates the offense in the way that he needs to. They call him a game manager at times. I don't think that's a knock. I think he's managed this team into a perfect situation to where if he makes the plays and doesn't turn the ball over and operates the offense in the way that it's been designed for him, he's going to come out of this game as a Super Bowl champion, man. So Brock Purdy, after last week, the 5 carries for 48 yards, 9.6 in the second half. We'll see what Steve Spagnuolo and this tough Chiefs defense have lined up for Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan's offense today. Adam Copeland, John Lund, the Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown. Things are starting to heat up here at Allegiant Stadium. We are just over 3.5 hours till kickoff. More to come. Pregame continues right here on the Sports Leader.
You don't have to get complicated. Look at Trent Williams, T-Rock.
I'm so happy for him.
Brandon Ayuk's going to his first Super Bowl.
Come on.
Christian McCaffrey's going to his first Super Bowl. Brock Purdy's going to his first Super Bowl. Just back up here, Brock. Take 1 or 2 steps back. Back up. Go down. It's over. The Niners are going to Vegas.
Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, and John Lem with you live from Allegiant Stadium. We're in the broadcast booth at Allegiant Stadium ahead of Super Bowl 58, and it's starting to get exciting, man. Mike Kohler just walked in. He was like, Copes, how is it, dude? Your first time covering a Super Bowl. It's pretty exciting. This is pretty cool, man. The vibe when you walk into this place, I mean, it's a cool stadium anyway. When you walk in, it looks like a giant Roomba on the outside, is what our guy Michael Connell in Digital was saying to us, but it's a nice-looking stadium. I came to the Raiders and Patriots game here last year, the crazy walk-off. It was like the throw from, who was that? Chandler Jones runs over Mac Jones, and he picks up the fumble and takes it for a touchdown.
That was crazy.
I've seen a college football game here, but this place is going to be, I mean, it's a spectacle. The way it's designed right now. The city has been painted sort of purple and red, which are, I guess, the Super Bowl colors this year. But as you heard Pop and Tim Ryan there, who will be on the call today on KNBR, the first appearance in a Super Bowl for a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys were not here. Dennis, you remember this. I mean, it was your first Super Bowl appearance in '94 when you guys go. There were so many guys, even Steve on the team, had been to bowls and sat there and helped the team win from a different position, of course, on the sideline. But your thought for a lot of these guys, who, especially a guy like Trent Williams, seeing his first appearance in a Super Bowl, man.
And, you talk about a guy like Trent Williams. I mean, he's been playing at a super high level for 14 years of his career, and he doesn't have a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
This is something that all NFL players want. I can remember guys coming like Charles Mann. Richard Denton had one, but guys coming into the 49ers just trying to get a Super Bowl ring at the end of their career because they knew the 49ers had the better chance in the NFL at that time to get their Super Bowl ring. So, I mean, it's something that all guys think about. I was lucky enough, my rookie season, we missed it by one game, and then 4 years later, we're right back in it. And I got my ring. So, it's a small fraternity. You always hear about this small fraternity of guys who have Super Bowl rings, and it's really kind of small. Some guys have multiple ones. I mean, but it's an experience, right? I mean, Vegas is a great town. Everywhere you go. I mean, we were lucky enough to be on the Strip. Everywhere you go in this town, there's Super Bowl something. There's Super Bowl. There's a party. There's a hat. There's something. There's a bunch of events going on. So the town is great. The town is kind of set up for this, right? This is what they kind of do.
Oh, this won't be the last one.
This won't be the last one
in Vegas.
So they've done a really good job. Again, these young guys understand that a lot of guys don't get an opportunity to be in this situation to compete for a championship at this level. So I hope guys are, just taking advantage and understanding it. And, I went to one and we fought to get back. I never made it back to another one. But it's a privilege and it's an honor to walk around with the Super Bowl ring on because not many people have it.
Well, what you just talked about, and we had a lot of conversations about this week. This is how big this is for a lot of different reasons. Number one, individually. So I don't know why they do this. They just do. I don't make up the rules. It changes Brock Purdy's life. It changes it as a person. He will always be known as Brock Purdy, Super Bowl winning quarterback. And it's the same way we talk about you, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown. It changes things. It gives you a credibility that you did it, but especially for the quarterback. So he could win no more, but if he at least wins the one. And that's how the greats are determined. I mean, Patrick Mahomes today can win another Super Bowl. And so when you get to that rarefied air, all of a sudden that's how you make the difference up, is who won, who played, who got the rings. So there's that aspect of it from a bunch of individual players. Trent Williams, who's already going to the Hall of Fame, but if there's any kind of is he going to go or not, I don't know, George Kittle's probably already in, but a guy like that or McCaffrey, where it's like, yeah, they do have that Super Bowl. They did win that Super Bowl. I think it's big for Kyle Shanahan, and we talked about it. It's just, it changes everything. But also what it does is your group, the guys that won all the Super Bowls with you guys are in this rarefied air. But the teams that Harbaugh coached, which as great as they were, they stop at a certain level because they didn't get it done. So I'm glad Patrick Willis made the Hall of Fame. NaVorro Bowman's going to coach the Chargers linebackers. Like, it's all great
Frank
stuff.
Gore didn't get one. You know
right?
What I mean?
Yeah, right. Frank Gore is going to be in the Hall of Fame, but he didn't get a ring. So it amplifies you. It raises you to the next level. So this team, as great as it's been for the last 5 NFC championship games, all these accolades, most talented team, you'll go down one of two roads at the fork. Super Bowl champion are the almost, and people they feel sorry for you. Like Stockton Malone never won, or Charles Barkley never won, or Dan Marino never won, or it puts you in a different place. Yeah. And especially for the greats, you've got to have that thing. And if you don't, then we look at this group of players and Kyle and everything else as, man, were they really good, and that was a lot of fun. They didn't get it. That Seattle team that they were competing with should have got two, but they got one. And so in Seattle, and you know what it's like up there, that team, Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner and Sherman, those guys, they're looked at a certain way up there because they got it. So that's what today is about. If you don't care about that, I understand, but this is about a legacy for individuals, for quarterbacks, for a group of players, for a coach, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, and I think about Eric Wright. I mean, he's a guy that, a lot of people don't really talk about, but he's got 4 Super Bowl rings. And so in the world of 49er world, I mean, he's not a Hall of Famer. I mean, you never, say he's one of the greatest ever, but he's got 4 Super Bowl rings. So when you talk about, guys on this football team, it's always Eric Wright because he's got those 4 fantastic player. Not a Hall of Famer. He didn't play. He didn't make it to the Hall of Fame, but he's got 4 Super Bowl rings.
That's unreal.
And he's held to a different level. When he walks in the room, it's like, oh, there's E. Wright. He's got 4 Super Bowl rings.
Because there's very few that do. You're looking at it like Joe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's very few guys on that list.
Right.
Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion. Dennis Brown and John Lund hanging out with you. Time now for the QB comparison, sponsored by Friedman's Appliance, proudly serving all of Northern California with a wide selection of luxury appliances. Visit them in Pleasant Hill to see the Friedman's difference, and by Dolce Vita Tequila. Tequila, pure and simple. Let's get into Brock Purdy first. Brock, of course, in the NFC Championship, rallies the Niners late for a huge comeback, down 24-7 at the half to the Lions. In the postseason, 43 of 70, 61.4% completion, 519 passing yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. He's been sacked 3 times, but the 62 rushing yards are the thing that I think really stands out. The 69.4 completion percentage and 4,200 passing yards this year, 4,280, I should say. The most in San Francisco history. It was 5th in the NFL. Now, Patrick Mahomes, I guess numbers-wise, you'd say he had a, quote, down year. It wasn't really a down season, but his numbers just weren't as gaudy as they had been in the past. 70 of 103, though, this postseason. That's 68% clip, 718, 4 touchdowns, and 2 sacks. He does have 75 rushing yards in the postseason as well. Over the course of the year, 67.2, 41.83 were the yards, and 27 touchdowns to 14 picks. He did take 27 sacks this year and had no rushing touchdowns on the season. We've got plenty more to come here. We'll get into the big question for the Super Bowl. Yeah, the big question. Can the Niners get it done? Can they stop the run of Isaiah Pacheco? And what does Christian McCaffrey do against this vaunted Chiefs defensive line? Adam Copeland, the Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, and John Lund. We are live from Allegiant Stadium ahead of Super Bowl 58, and it's only here on the Sports Leader.
Beginning of the week, it's always fun and stuff to get out here and everything, but I've always been pretty well aware, even before I got into coaching, what the Super Bowl was, and you're so locked in and ready for that moment. I've learned it going to them before, but I do think the players, the biggest thing is for them to realize, because, I don't take as many pictures anymore. You don't film everything, thinking this is so special and stuff, because you've never seen stuff like that. I think those are the things you start to realize, like, all that matters is that game. You're not going to come back and watch that stuff unless you win that game. And that's really, I think it gets clearer and clearer the more you go to them.
There is Kyle Shanahan getting you ready on his thought process. No more taking pictures. No more having,
He said, cut the crap, John. It's like I'm here to win a ball game.
Total business trip. We'll get more into it. We're live at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, giving you the feel, the thought, and, of course, breaking the game down as we are. And we got the countdown clock right in front of us. 3 hours, 23 minutes, 36, 35, 34. So a few hours until the Niners and the Chiefs get this thing going. Before we get more into the game, it is your health report sponsored by Danville Pain and Wellness, bringing your nerve pain to an end. I'll defer to you real quick on this, Dennis. I think the 49ers do one of the best jobs in all of the league. Some of it's luck, there's no question. But they're as healthy as they've been all season long. Cleveland Farrell, we've talked about, it's been a loss because he sets the edge so well. Chase Young has to play too many snaps probably, and hopefully he plays better today. But outside of that, George Kittle was off and on practicing with a toe. Trent Williams takes time off because he's a vet. Outside of that, Debo's a full health, a full go. Everybody's pretty healthy going into this game. And after, as we talked about how many times we've done this, preseason, regular season, couple of playoff games, here we are in Vegas after this long season. Training camp started in July.
Yeah.
And outside of Cleveland Farrell, everybody's good to go. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, and with this 49er team, they've been, kind of bitten with the injury bug throughout the football season or throughout the years. Kyle Shanahan year. So, but this has been really good. You have these last 2 weeks. You get yourself set up to come to a Super Bowl. No injuries. You have 2 weeks off. You guys, everyone's kind of nursing a nagging injury right now. So no one's at 100%. But you do have these couple of weeks to kind of get some treatment, get into the training room, get some ice, get yourself ready to play in this football game. But it's been very fortunate that it hasn't been any major injuries to this football team. They're pretty healthy. Now you're rested up a little bit. You get a couple of weeks. You got a week, maybe a couple of days away from the family. Once the family gets here, you get all the tickets and all that other stuff going. But now you get to focus these last couple of days. I'm sure these guys are kind of locked down and got focused. But the injury is a good thing. Not having, big time injuries, not missing, a starting offensive lineman or linebacker or something like that. So they've been really fortunate in that way.
Well, and you can pinpoint when the 49ers struggled their most this year, the 3-game losing streak, when they lose in Cleveland, then they lose to Minnesota, and they lose to Cincinnati. That all coincided with when Trent Williams went down early in that game against Cleveland. He ended up coming back, but then Jalen Moore had to step in for him, and then that obviously didn't go well. We know John's feelings on Jalen Moore, well documented, of course, on the pregame show here. And then Deebo Samuel, same sort of thing. He goes down, and it's incredible. We talked so much in the offseason about, and leading up into the start of this season, about how Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel's skill sets, at least on the surface, somebody like me, I thought they do a lot of the same stuff now, dude. It's when you have both of those guys and what they're capable of doing to be able to play off each other. Look at when McCaffrey's season kind of hit a bit of a lull. For him, I would say, it's when Deebo wasn't there. Things didn't open up the same way when Deebo and Trent Williams were down. That's why I think for you were talking about it beforehand, Christian McCaffrey, it's maybe not a 30-carry game for him, but I think it's a game where there's going to be a lot of runs with guys including Christian McCaffrey, maybe a little bit of short yardage with Mitchell, but I think Deebo Samuel's going to touch the ball a lot today.
Yeah, again, there's no tomorrow, so we're not saving Deebo for anything. We're not saving CMC for anything. They're going to go all out in this game. Both teams are. But Kansas City does have significant injuries. Joe Thuney, their all-pro left guard, is out. Nick Allegretti was actually back. Thuney wasn't on the Chiefs back then. Allegretti was. He's a decent backup at left guard, but he's not Joe Thuney. One of their fastest linebackers is game-time decision, Willie Gay, number 50. He can make a difference in this game with his speed, so that's a major injury. Kadarius Toney won't play in this game, not that I thought he was going to. So they've got a couple of guys, but they're banged up. There's a couple of positions. Their wide receiver group is banged up a little bit. They do have some injuries. Thuney probably being the biggest of them all, because if you look at this offensive line, the two tackles are number 1 and 3 in the last 5 years in holding. That's why Nick Bosa said what he said about that. But I think he can take apart, whether it's Jawan Taylor, who you're going to get flashbacks of Lane Johnson. He takes off fast at right tackle. But both those guys hold a lot. Then you go to the interior. Creed Humphrey is really, really good. Smith, their right guard, is really, really good. But now you got to back up the left guard. So not a great left tackle, not a great left guard, and a questionable right tackle. I'm not playing to Dennis on this. This defensive line today has to eat. We've said that in every game. But not only just Nick, it's got to be everybody, man. It's time for Hargrave, who hasn't had a good playoff, to be good. I know that Armstead, we forgot to mention him, his injuries, is still banged up and needs offseason surgery on that knee. But they have got to come through today, because there's a few positions on that line, and Nick's going to move against either tackle. And it can't just be Nick, though. Against Detroit, they had 6 quarterback hits, and he had 5. Nick's played great in the playoffs.
Right.
Nobody else has. They have got to get it from this D-line, because they can take advantage of this offense.
He put 5 on Jordan Love in Green Bay as well in the divisional round, and never got to the quarterback. I never sacked the quarterback in the game, and he was able to. I was fairly comfortable until late in that game. And so you're right. They've got to close the pocket on Mahomes with Dennis.
Yeah, and you got to get Mahomes down, right?
Yes.
I mean, you wrapping him up, contain, all that stuff. He'll still pick you apart. You got to get him on the ground. And you have, like you talked about, the tackles. I think last week the guard, he had 2 back-to-back holding penalties. So, these guys, these offensive linemen, they do what they do. They hold. And they don't do a very good job at it because the referees can see it. So they're going to hold. Nick Bosa's going to get held on the inside. Hargrave's going to get held. Armstead's going to get held. But you got to get off these blocks. You got to get in his face, Mahomes' face, and you got to get him on the ground.
Dennis, what happens? I mean, again, it can be as simple as just finishing the play, right? We talked about some of the missed tackles in the last few weeks, but they went through a stretch early in the year, 3 sacks from Drake Jackson week 1, right? Then we're like, what happened to the sack numbers? Bosa wasn't picking them up. And then when Chase Young showed up, everything kind of changed. Now, you mentioned Cleve Ferrell being out as we talked about the injuries. He wasn't a good hitting the quarterback guy, but he's a guy who set the edge. Chase Young hasn't done much of any of that in the last month or so. What changes and what I guess the point I'm trying to make here is we know Bosa's getting to the quarterback. You talked about the QB hits. What changes from just hitting the QB to sacking the QB?
Getting them on the ground. That's the difference. And, before Chase Young came, you remember Nick Bosa only had about 6 sacks. And then all of a sudden Chase Young comes and, these sacks start coming. So, Chase is, he's getting a little bit of attention. Maybe Nick Bosa is playing at a different level now that his homeboy from college is here now. But the sacks went up once Chase Young got here. But Chase Young's got to get to the quarterback. I mean, he is a pass rusher. That's what he does. That's what he did in college. Right. That's what he did at Washington. So he's got to start focusing. I don't know, we were talking, can he play the run? Can he play the pass? Maybe start focusing too much on the run. But he's got to get to the passer, especially today. He's got to get pressure in his face, especially if his back. If Mahomes is back to him, he's got to get some strip sacks. He's got to be a big focus in this football game. He's got to do big things. We know what Nick Bosa's going to do.
Yeah,
Nick Bosa's going to get there, but you got to get him on the ground. You got to get Mahomes on the ground.
Yeah, he is one of the more. What Brock Purdy did against the Lions is what Mahomes does every game. I'm not breaking news here. It's those killer plays on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7, and he breaks out of the pocket and he gets a first down. And one of the most concerning things about today, at least statistically, is the 49ers have not been good, especially in the playoffs, on 3rd down.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, or 3rd and 14. They're just giving up way too many 3rd downs to both the Packers and the Lions, and you're sitting there scratching your head. I mean, the Lions got a lot of, they run in 3rd down a ton. The Packers didn't even punt the ball until there was like 13:22 left in the 4th quarter. They have got to be better on 3rd down. And look, I don't know if you adjust things. So if you're going, and the wide 9 is, they just go right after that quarterback, pin the ears back and go. But you've got to somehow, though, contain Mahomes. He's the complete opposite of Jared Goff. Goff was, you got to kind of get him to move off that spot, and if he does, his percentages go way down in terms of completing passes. Actually, Mahomes is the opposite. If he just sits back in the pocket, he's good. If he gets out and starts playing playground, he's great. So as you point out, it's not good enough to pressure him. It's not good enough to hit him. As we saw in the 3rd and 15 to beat the 49ers and started that ball rolling, yeah, Bosa got held. There's no question about it. But Mahomes went back and just got rid of the ball. So if you hit him afterwards, he's already done the damage.
Yeah.
You've got to get him down.
Yeah, and that's the key. I mean, you got to get off blocks. I mean, you can't be tied up. I mean, you're going to get held. That's what they're trained to do. That's what they're taught to do. You got to get off these blocks of these big, fat offensive linemen, but you got to get Mahomes down. I mean, these large men.
These big men, yeah.
These big
large
men.
and very unathletic
Big,
and
strong holders,
unintelligent.
yeah.
But they want to hold you. That's what they want to do. You got to get off. You got to get off the blocks. You got to get them on the ground.
Okay, so in terms of somebody on the YouTube chat, and I know a lot of the messages are coming in so quickly, I did see somebody say, I'd be shocked if the Chiefs scored more than 24. That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, they scored 17 points last week, 2 weeks ago against Baltimore. They were up 17-0 at the half, and they get shut out in the second half. 3 points in the second half, so the final was 17-10.
Yeah.
I think was the final in that game. Anyway, they got a little aggressive like Dan Campbell did. They went for it on a couple of fourth downs in Ravens territory and did not pick it up and could have gone the other way, but their defense stopped Lamar Jackson. Do the Chiefs have enough firepower on offense in your guys' mind to catch the Niners or play in a shootout with the Niners if Brock Purdy is able to get him to 30 points like we've seen so many times?
Well, I don't know. I think Kansas City, if they score 21 points, I think they're 10-0 or something. I saw a stat somewhere. So if they put 21 points on the board, that's where they want to be. So I mean, if this 49ers offense can be as efficient as they can be, they've been throughout the season, if they put 30 points on the board, they win football games. But Kansas City, they want to get to about 21 points. That's where you don't want them to be. You want to keep them under 21 points. And do they have the firepower? Yes, they do. I think they do have the firepower. They have a good receiver, a young receiver in Rice, and then they have Kelsey that can kill you in the middle of the field. You saw that last week against Baltimore. He took over that football game in the first half. And then you got one of the best quarterbacks. So I think you do. I don't think this is a team you want to get in the shootout with. But if you can put up 30 points against this defense, and it's a tough defense, you can win the football game. But the Kansas City Chiefs, they want to get to 20, 21 points. They win football games.
Yeah, it really is the opposite of Super Bowl 54, where it was the Chiefs offense versus the 49ers defense. It's flipped. The Chiefs have a great defense. 49ers have a great offense, and the 49ers defense doesn't show up because your original question basically is, what does the score have to be or in what range for the 49ers to win? I think if it gets up into the 30s in a shootout, I don't like the 49ers' chances because the Chiefs' offense has not been great. So if all of a sudden they get a great offensive performance, which they could with Mahomes, and they do their normal defensive effort, then they're going to win this football game. Again, I'll go back to a stat I said earlier. They've lost 6 times. In 5 of those, they were held under 20, and in the 6th, they scored 20. So when you beat Kansas City, at least this year, they're not getting more than 20, and they're actually getting more into the teens when they win football games. Their offense struggles. Their defense is good, but they are 25th against the run, 4.5 yards per carry. They do get the 17th most yards. So this has to be a game in which the 49ers, let's go back to the question and not go off. I won't go off on a tangent. I'm thinking in terms of, at the most like a 27-24. I'd love to see, in the 27-28. I think if you're getting up into the 30s, that means Kansas City's offense started to click. Your defense struggled, because I think it's going to be hard for the 49ers to go over 30 in this game. This has to be a game, I think, for the 49ers to win in the 20s.
So you're going on the lower end of it.
Yeah.
That's kind of my point. I don't think it's a shootout, this game. I think it is going to be a lower scoring game.
If it is, I think it's bad for the 49ers.
You're probably right about that. We are going to get to, why don't we check in with one of our guys for the final time this year, Matt Mayoko. Maybe we'll check in with him after the game, depending on what happens. We'll see. I know he's got a bunch of stuff going on afterwards. He's, of course, with Jennifer Lee Chan, does the 49ers Talk podcast. He covers the 49ers for NBC Sports Bay Area, and he will join us here in the broadcast booth to talk about the Niners and the Chiefs. Super Bowl 58 coming your way in just over 3 hours. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, and John Lund. How about this? We got like 1,700, nearly 1,800 people hanging out on the YouTube chat. Thanks to everybody who have checked in today on YouTube, twitch.tv/thesportsleader. We got plenty more to come. Matt Mayoko joins us next, our insider from NBC Sports on the Sports Leader.
I mean, I think he has one of the best systems in the NFL. There's a bunch of teams running a system. Obviously, a lot of the coaches branch off and get hired at other places. And obviously, the way he calls the game and the way he teaches these coaches and stuff, how he sees the game, and they go and run it everywhere else. Like, you could tell it works, and it's one of the best. And so, but it's like learning another language. You know, you got to study it 24/7. You always got to be in the playbook and reminding yourself of little things. And but if you get it down, it's one of the best systems to run, and everything ties together so well, but definitely not the easiest to learn.
Adam Copeland, the Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, and John Lund with you live from the broadcast booth at Allegiant Stadium ahead of Super Bowl 58, and we do this every week on the pregame show. We catch up with our 49ers insider, Matt Mayoko of NBC Sports Bay Area. Does a great job covering the Niners all season long and all off-season long. He and Jennifer Lee Chan. Make sure you're checking out the 49ers Talk podcast after, of course, every game. Matt, how are you, man? How we doing today?
I'm doing great. I am not in the booth. I'm sorry I can't be up there with you guys, but I'm right outside the 49ers locker room, and on the early bus, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Kyle Shanahan showed up here a few hours ago. And then just now, such players as Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Brock Purdy just entered the 49ers locker room. So it won't be long now.
Matt, can you tell us, I mean, you've covered the team for a long time. You covered them in Miami 4 years ago when they lost to the Chiefs in Super Bowl 54. The vibe around the team, I mean, a lot of guys are going to their first Super Bowl here. I know there's an air of excitement, of course, when you get to do that for the first time. But because this organization and this coach and this team had lost a Super Bowl 4 years ago and come so close to other appearances in the last few years, what's the vibe around the team, and is it any different than the last time we saw them in this game?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of a more mature look at it and more of a pragmatic look at this. I mean, I think they recognize that it is an accomplishment to win the NFC and get to the Super Bowl. But I think everybody also understands that nobody really cares about the Super Bowl loser. You know, with the history that the 49ers have of 5 championships, 5 Lombardi trophies, you know, they know that their status among 49er franchise teams will just be kind of lost if they don't win this. And you're talking about kind of a new generation. I mean, think about this. 49ers won 5 Super Bowls in the first 29 Super Bowls. So 5 times out of 29 Super Bowls. And now this is the 29th Super Bowl after their last win, and they're searching for that 6th Lombardi. So I think Kyle Shanahan seems to be a little bit more loose than he was 4 years ago. I think the players are probably in a better spot of just kind of understanding what awaits them. But, you know, one of the kind of the unknowns is Brock Purdy. I mean, he's such a young guy. We kind of forget that sometimes. But he's 24 years old. He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's going to be looking across the sideline at Patrick Mahomes, who's won 2 Super Bowls. You know, Brock Purdy does not have to be Superman, but he just has to he has to toe that line of being aggressive and letting it rip without doing anything that puts the team in a bad situation. So it's going to be a fun day. It's going to be an exciting day and an enlightening day to see, you know, what this 49ers team is all about. There's no question that from the moment their season ended a year ago, where they really did not have a chance against the Philadelphia Eagles, all their focus has been on getting back to the NFC Championship game, winning that, and then giving themselves a chance at a Super Bowl. And that time is almost here.
Yeah, it's now or never, Matthew. Just talk about this team. I know this week it's been, you know, there's been a few challenges. You talk about the field. I think there was a fire alarm scare at the hotel the team was staying in. What are the practices have been like? We were talking earlier about, I can remember when I was in my Super Bowl and just how focused the practices were during that week. Just talk about kind of how the practices were going, you know, the vibe of the team. You've already said some things about that, but overall, where's this team at as far as, you know, getting themselves prepared for a football game?
Yeah, you know, they had the practices last week where they put their game plan in. They installed their game plan in Santa Clara. And then once they got here to Las Vegas, they kind of fine-tuned things. They had just sort of a brief kind of walkthrough on Monday. They had the day off on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, when they got back at it, there was a lot more intensity than what they would ordinarily see or show on a Wednesday. And same the next day. Once they put the pads on, they actually practiced with pads on Thursday. They did some thumping. And, you know, from everything I understand, and players told me, things were, you know, they were intense. You know, both sides of the ball, very intense. So I think they're ready to go. They made it through the week without any injuries. Everyone on their 53-man roster is available to play in this game. So here we are. You know, there's no excuses. Yes, the field was horrible. Their hotel wasn't great. The accommodations were lacking, which is something that's kind of a disappointment that the NFL would allow all that stuff to happen. But, you know, once they kind of got over that and realized there wasn't, you know, they had to live with that situation, I think they moved forward, and maybe they used that as a little bit of motivation. Not that they need any motivation. Obviously, they're playing for the Super Bowl. But I think they kind of went into this week with a us against the world kind of mentality and facing a team that, you know, has won 2 Super Bowls here and stacked for their 4th Super Bowl in 5 years. They know they're facing a big task against Patrick Mahomes and a 2-time Super Bowl winning head coach as well.
Thanks for joining us. Super Bowl pregame shows will get you ready for the Chiefs and the 49ers. Matt Mayoko, our insider, and, of course, 49ers Talk podcast out of the field. Dennis Brown, John Ludd, and Adam Copeland. We're up here in the radio booth getting ready for everything. The biggest question, Matty, on Media Row this week was, can the 49ers find their defense? Obviously, the Packers, the Lions, the way that they ran the ball, the wide lanes that they gave up. Is this enough time for the 49ers? And they don't have to be, you know, we went back and watched Super Bowl 54. I mean, that was a great defensive performance. Maybe they up until about 7 minutes were left. But this isn't quite the same defense. Can they find it in time?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, they at certain times this year, they have been a good run defense. But it seemed like after Eric Armstead left the lineup against Philadelphia, that was the last game he played for a while. Once he left the lineup and then came back, that run defense just hasn't been there. So, Patrick Mahomes will dink and dunk. He's quite a game manager, Patrick Mahomes. He's the kind of guy, he's a very good system quarterback. He's the kind of guy that will just kind of take what's there.
Thank you, Matt. All right.
Yeah, you're welcome. No, he's the best in the business. I mean, I think Brock Purdy aspires to be the kind of system quarterback and game manager that Patrick Mahomes has been. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to have to shut down Isaiah Pacheco early in this game, keep Mahomes in those third and long, and get after him. But, can the 49ers find their defense? When you look at it, they have the guys, right? But they need more out of Eric Armstead. They need more out of Javon Hargrave. They need Chase Young to play a complete game and be a factor both run defense and as a pass rusher. And then those guys that they mix in, those guys are going to have to bring it too. I didn't even mention Nick Bosa's name because he's going to bring it, and that they're going to put 2 and 3 guys on him to slow him down. And then for the guys on the second level, there's no one better than Fred Warner, and there's no one better, or no 2 guys better as a tandem than Warner and Dre Greenlaw. So, what I say is all those guys have to be on top of their game, assignment-wise and everything else, to be able to win this game. If they have the kind of defensive performance they had in the Super Bowl 4 years ago, I think 49ers walk out of here with their 6th Lombardi.
Talking to Matt Mayoko here, a 49ers insider from NBC Sports Bay Area. For the 49ers, in terms of the secondary here, I anticipate somebody's going to get picked on, and I kind of expect it to be Ambry Thomas today. Maybe it's Demo Lenore. Where do you think they go? Where's the weak link that they'll try to expose, you think, for the Niners? And I say weak as just a view, I think, from their perspective, that they're going to try to pick on somebody.
Yeah, I would say so. Ambry Thomas has been the guy that the teams have attacked. But I don't know that necessarily plays into what the Chiefs do. I mean, the Chiefs don't have a whole lot of weapons on the outside. Rashee Rice is a guy that, he can make plays. He had a really good year. He's had a good postseason. But but it's him and it's Travis Kelce. They play a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets. So, I just don't know that the Chiefs have the manpower or the explosiveness on the outside to really challenge the 49ers. What will be interesting to see is, does Steve Wilks decide to match Tarvarius Ward with somebody? Do they move him around? Is it on Rice? What are they going to do there? And are there times when maybe even he covers Travis Kelce? I don't know. The thing that Steve Wilks can't do is be predictable, because once the Chiefs know, once Andy Reid knows, once Patrick Mahomes knows what the defense is trying to do them, they will have answers. They always have. They always will. So, it's going to be a great matchup, and it's probably will be difficult to kind of see it in real time. But hey, the coaching matchup, Wilks against Andy Reid, the coaching matchup of Kyle Shanahan against Steve Spagnuolo. I mean, those are high quality individuals, and I know Steve Wilks has come under a lot of fire this season. Some of it justified, some of it probably not. But again, this is the only one that matters. This is the only game that matters on the season, because this is what the 49ers goal was from day one, and legacies will be made right here today at Allegiant Stadium.
It's funny, Matt Mayoko shows he's down on the field at Allegiant Stadium as we get ready for the 49ers and the Chiefs. John Lund, Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown were up in the radio booth to get ready for the game. You just mentioned that last word, legacies, and some people roll their eyes on it. But when it comes to the Super Bowl, quarterbacks make legacies. If Mahomes wins it, he takes another step up. If Brock wins it, all this talk of, I don't care if he's a system, I don't care whatever you want to call him, he's a Super Bowl winner, he has a ring, and it just totally changes things. For Kyle Shanahan, it changes things. For the team, it changes things. They're not the Harbaugh group that got close. They're the ones who got it done. It's their 6th Lombardi, so they move up, with the Steelers in the elite. They're tied for the top of all time. Like, that is a big deal, and it just means a lot for so many people. I guess you don't want to think about it as a player because it's probably overwhelming, but I mean, by the end of this day, you could have your 6th trophy, and for a lot of different people, it's life-changing.
Hey, there are going to be millions upon millions of people watching today that have never watched the 49ers play. And, I mean, I don't use the word legacy lightly. There are going to be people today that will either have, in some ways, the rest of their lives made. You know, if a guy steps up and has the game of his life, you know, he'll be able to go to autograph shows for the rest of his life and make money off of this. And if, you know, a player has a bad game, and that will haunt him. I mean, I was just talking to Jim Harbaugh 2 days ago, and he told me how that Super Bowl still haunts him. He says there's not a day goes by that he doesn't think about it and doesn't have regrets about how the game played out. And things happen so quickly. I mean, think about that. From the time that one ball is snapped and there's a whistle to the next ball snap, there's less than 40 seconds. And a decision has to be made in that time that can change lives. And the Super Bowl is a unique beast because whatever, you know, if you're on the winning side of it, you will always be a Super Bowl champion. And, you know, until your dying day, people will always be bringing up the Super Bowl, and it'll be part of families' histories. So not to be overly dramatic, but heck yeah, I'm going to be overly dramatic because it's the truth.
It's going to be pretty cool, man. Patrick Mahomes going for his 3rd Super Bowl title. It'll be his 4th start in the Super Bowl. That's already 3rd most all-time against Brock Purdy, making his 1st. Kyle Shanahan, there's similarities with him and where he is in his career to where Andy Reid was when he took over as head coach of the Chiefs and then finally got his 1st and a 2nd. So, Matt, it's been great all season talking to you. I know we'll see you later, and we'll talk to you later. Enjoy the game, man. It's been a lot of fun this season, and we'll see what happens, dude.
It has been a heck of a season. It's so much fun. I appreciate everything that you guys have done for me and the fun we've had. And just, I wish 49ers faithful all the luck in the world because, you know, I've gotten to know a lot of people who follow this team from all across the country. A lot of them are out here. There's Las Vegas is just run over by 49ers fans, and I know how much it means to them. So big shout out to all those people who make our job so much fun to chronicle the 49ers.
Very well said, Matt. Enjoy the game. We will talk to you later.
Okay, take care, guys. Thank you.
Matt Mayoko, he was standing outside the 49ers locker room here at Allegiant Stadium where I am, Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, the Super Bowl champ, and John Lund. We are hanging, looking at the field. They're starting to put up signage now. I see who our national anthem is going to be sung by. You see that name over there, John? National anthem, you see that? It's one of your favorites, isn't it?
Yeah.
Reba. Yeah, that's one of John Lund's favorites.
I got a lot of Reba in my collection.
I know, Dennis. Yeah, John's a big Reba McEntire guy. John, while you think about Reba, why don't I tell you, it's time to get into the fantasy player to watch, sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Dennis, who is your fantasy player in the game to watch for the 49ers?
Listen, 49ers, I'm going to say the linebackers. I think Fred Warner is a guy that's played, especially in this playoff game, at a super high level. Dre Greenlaw at the same point. I mean, they're going to have great games against this offense, Kansas City offense, and Travis Kelce. I mean, they got to have great games. So that's going to be my fantasy pick.
Fantasy pick, it's Christian McCaffrey. There's no question about it. I think Christian has to be, again, it's not a yardage total. He has to be over a certain, I think, amount of touches. But from a fantasy perspective, I believe the over-under on Christian is about 90, so you'd want Christian to be over that number. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to touch the ball a lot, and I think he's going to have a big impact on whether the 49ers win this game.
Hypothetically, if somebody on the broadcast team were paying attention specifically to some yardage, and on our team here, of course, Christian McCaffrey is total rushing yards at 89, and I don't know, let's say a half. Would you feel good about that?
89, yeah.
Yeah, I would feel good about that. What would you like to know? I have the booklet right here.
What would you like to know?
So it's got all the bets in front of them.
What's that, John Lund? What is that?
Just a little light reading.
Magazine.
A little light reading.
Do they have a book here? There's no book in the stadium, is there?
No, I don't believe so.
No? We got to get on that. My buddy texted me. He's like, yo, can we get some action? I was like, I'm at work, my man.
We are in Vegas.
I'm sitting right here. I'm at work.
Well, believe me, you can't walk 5 feet. I mean, you think we talk about it on our, I think the lines this, that, and the other. We had guys come out this week that were quote, it was like, my gosh, man. Quoting every prop in the book.
By the way, we should let everybody know who's tuning in on our YouTube channel. Everybody's saying, are you going to show the game here? That is not something that legally anybody is allowed to do except the NFL. No, we will not be showing the game. We've got a camera on the field right now because we are doing pregame from the broadcast
turn that camera
at Allegiant Stadium. We probably do, honestly. By the time the game starts, we can't be retransmitting or redistributing without express written consent of the San Francisco 49ers and whatever else that disclaimer is.
In the National
Football League. So, no, we're going to be back for postgame. We'll be taking your calls and getting your thoughts, of course, all day long. We are under 3 hours now till kickoff. Tim Ryan and Greg Papa will pop in and call the game for you. If you want to hear any of the game, KMBR, you can hear it on KMBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader. When we come on back, why don't we get a little bit deeper into this one? Andy Reid talked about the flexibility the Chiefs have on defense against the 49ers. But let's build one last game plan as we get into this one. Super Bowl 58. And it's all coming right here on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, so the 49ers have an offense that has a lot of talent, a lot of guys that can do a lot of things. And so you need flexibility within your secondary linebacker positions. Trent gives us that. He can play the inside slot position. He can really play anywhere in the secondary. I mean, whether it's safety, corner, I mean, he is one of our starting corners, but he moves all over the place. He can match up guys. So he's special that way.
It's incredible. We are back here live from Allegiant Stadium, and it's not filled up, but fans are here. It is starting to fill up. Players are starting to come out of the field, start to warm up and get loose. I think Patrick Mahomes is down there on the field right now. Is that Mahomes down there, John? No, that's not Mahomes. There's some other guys getting loose, though. Players are starting to come out of the field, starting to get warmed up. There's Tabor Pepper, the 49ers long snapper. Anyway, guys are starting to stretch out as we are under 3 hours until kickoff for Super Bowl 58. Let's start to build the game plan for this one. Time for building the game plan, sponsored by Golden State. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit us today at goldenstatelumber.com. And, of course, it's sponsored by River Islands.
It was
Come
for
home to
me.
River Islands in Lathrop and discover the San Joaquin River lifestyle with its lakes, parks, and schools. Start your tour today at riverislands.com. It was for me.
It was for me.
The game plan for this one, guys. It sounds like it's going to be all about the run game on both sides of the ball. Stopping the run for the Chiefs, stopping the run for the Niners, getting some running yards from Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, and being able to stop Isaiah Pacheco from gashing for like an 8-yard gain. He comes out of the backfield like he's shot out of a cannon. He's a through-the-tackles guy. You talked about the Chiefs getting some run from the outside potentially, maybe some end-around stuff, a guy like Mecole Hardman, maybe it's Rashee Rice. That remains to be seen. But, Dennis, for you, when you know that the game, and you talk about it all the time, win and loss in the trenches, when you know that a game is all about the run game for both teams, and especially when you have Patrick Mahomes there, you've got Christian McCaffrey back there, it means something different for both teams, but what's the focus for a defense then?
Well, defense, I mean, you watched the film the last 2 weeks, and it's very obvious. You can't drip off of ball carriers. You got to see what you tackle. You can't miss tackles. You have to have defined run fits. And you just have to play. It's football one-on-one. You have to tackle. You have to disengage. You can't get locked up on with these offensive linemen. You got to disengage from these offensive linemen. You got to make plays. That's what it comes down to. Your ends, you have to play better. You have to have stronger contain. And in the middle, you have to be a two-gapper. You have to be the old-school two-gapper. You got to play. You got to absorb so your linebackers can flow. So that's going to be the story of this football game. You talk about Pacheco. He runs in between the tackles and he runs hard. He gets the ball and he is gone. He's to the next level. If you're not going to slow him down on the first level, get him on the ground. He's to the next level, and he runs fast. He runs hard, high knees, and he's trying to fight for those extra yards. So the story of this football game will be if the 49ers can shut down this run game.
It's overly simplistic, but I gave you the numbers before. When the Chiefs lose, they've lost 6 times this year, and Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a game better than a 79 quarterback rating with 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So when they lose, Mahomes struggles as good as he is. It's really the players around him. But Brock, it's night and day, wins and losses. Wins this season, 12 of them, and I'm just talking about the regular season, 28 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 130.7 rating. In losses, Brock Purdy, 3 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and a 65.2. It's not all on Brock Purdy, but the numbers tell you, at least during the regular season, when Brock is good, the Niners are good. When Brock struggles, the Niners struggle. I don't want to make it overly simplistic, but with both these quarterbacks, Mahomes struggles, the Chiefs lose. Brock struggles, the Niners lose, and I'm not saying by a little bit. When the Chiefs lose, Mahomes is awful. When the Niners lose, Brock is awful. So it's not like Brock played okay and they won, or Brock played okay and they lost. Both of these quarterbacks have been extreme in wins and losses.
A couple of notes here, because you're talking about when he plays poorly or when Mahomes plays poorly. So do the Chiefs, especially because he's the guy that makes the entire offense go. I know Pacheco's a big part of it, but you don't have Mahomes there. Pacheco's not having the year or the couple of seasons that he's had early on in his career. You talked about the turnover battle. The 49ers in the regular season, here's the number on the Chiefs. The Chiefs on the year, -11 in the regular season, 26th in the NFL when it came to turnovers. 17 picks thrown by Kansas City quarterbacks. 14 of them were by Patrick Mahomes. They had 8 fumbles alone by wide receivers. That's wild. Yeah. They had 2 from, was it Marquez Valdes-Scantling last week, or who had the 2 fumbles in the AFC Championship? He had like 2 touches, 2 fumbles, and a -1 yard, and he lost one out of the back of the end zone when he was diving for the touchdown. Again, -11 on the season, 26th in the NFL, 28 total giveaways in the regular season. One more note here for the 49ers, a key stat here. Their red zone offense, number 1 in the NFL, 68.49 touchdown percentage. They did not go for 2 one time this year for a 2-point conversion, nor did they go for it on 4th down. down, one of the lowest rates in all of the league. KC was number 19 in the red zone at 52.7. If the game comes down to clutch plays, there's an emphasis, as you pointed out already, on Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. That could help decide the Super Bowl. We've seen big defensive plays in the red zone and in the end zone many times, winning a Super Bowl. All right, let's get to plenty more to come here. By the way, still to come, we'll have a conversation with the we're going to go to the broadcast booth. I assume we're going to talk to Greg Papa, who will be on the call today on KNBR for Super Bowl 58, looking to call a victory for the first time in his career as a broadcaster for a team, or a play-by-play man for an organization. He, of course, had the one with the Raiders, and they lost in 2002 and then a couple of years ago. So Greg on the call with Tim Ryan. We'll check in with him just a little bit. We also have plenty more to get to. When we come on back, we'll get you the player to bank on, and we actually got a couple of interviews we want you to hear from Greg Cosell. That's right, Greg Cosell, senior producer of NFL Films, did a breakdown of the 49ers and the Chiefs' AFC and NFC title runs, and a little preview into what this game could look like. Greg Cosell next on the Sports Leader.
I think it's just their intensity. I mean, they play hard every single play. They bring energy And we know it's to take our best football. And so for us, we just have to come in with that intensity to go out there and play our best. And if we don't, we'll lose the game.
Either Pat Mahomes or Kermit the Frog. Can't tell unless I'm seeing who it is talking. They asked, by the way, Patrick Mahomes to give his best Kermit the Frog impression at Media Week earlier this week, and he said, "This is it. It's just me talking." I can't really do one either. Anyway, of Pat Mahomes, Adam Copeland, the Super Bowl champion, Dennis Brown, and John Lund. We are with you here live from Allegiant Stadium ahead of Super Bowl 58, a rematch of Super Bowl 54, though different quarterback for the 49ers. Will not be Jimmy Garoppolo, the guy who did call this place his home for at least one season here as a Las Vegas Raider. Well, every week of the football season, Greg Cosell, just one of the absolute best, by the way. Greg Cosell, senior producer of NFL Films. He does film breakdown, and he basically breaks down every play of every 49er game for us. He watches every snap, goes back, and checks the tape. Well, he joined us on Radio Row this week, myself and Tom Tolbert. We asked Greg, is there anything that's changed with his thoughts after 2 weeks of preparing for this Super Bowl?
No, obviously, seeing more tape, thinking about the game, there's certain things that pop into my head that I'm fascinated to see. I mean, I think it's very hard in a game like this, for me anyway. Maybe others feel that they can make definitive statements. I always feel like I can give you 10 variables that you don't know exactly how they're going to play out.
Sure.
Yep. And I think I like to think that's a reasonable approach. Yep. I don't think anybody can say this is absolutely going to happen. Yep. We just don't know that. But, I tell you one thing, though. In this era of, passing, and I'm not saying the passing games won't be important, but I think this Super Bowl in some ways could well be defined by running games. I think that both teams are pretty committed to running the ball in a meaningful way, and they both play out of base personnel a lot. The Chiefs have really morphed into playing with 3 tight ends a lot, and with 2 tight ends a good percentage as well. And we know what the Niners are. They're a 21 personnel offense with Kyle Juszczyk. I think it's more than 40% of their snaps. Charlie Warner gets snaps with Kittle, so they play 2 tight ends. So, it'll be interesting to see because, as you guys know, the bigger the games get, the tighter it is. So you think that, okay, let's say the 49ers come out and they want to run the ball, but their first 3 McCaffrey runs are 1 yard, 2 yard, and 1 yard. You're Kyle on the sideline thinking, well, I really want to run the ball, but that's not really getting done what we want to get done. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. They may have really great success. Yep. But, I think the run game coaches start to feel like a little tight if it's not working early.
Yeah, and it's funny because I forget who I was talking to last week. We were talking about the Baltimore-Kansas City game and how Baltimore couldn't run the ball. And my friend
chose not to, actually.
Yeah, chose not to. Yeah. Well, he said, I noticed a lot of 8-man boxes, and I heard Greg Cosell's voice saying, well, just because it's an 8-man box doesn't mean you can't run the ball.
No.
And everybody seems to think, I go, well, I remember saying, if that were the case, all you'd have to do is put an 8th guy in there, and then they're not going to run it, so you just back out of it real quick, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that people throw out. You can't run against an 8-man box. You have to establish the run to go play action. Yep. There's certain things that get thrown out that have no bearing on the way it really is. I mean, I remember the playoff game that ESPN did, and I thought Troy Aikman said it. He said it just matter-of-factly, but it's so true. He said, if we didn't or couldn't run the ball in 8-man boxes with Emmitt Smith, he never would have gained yards because we saw an 8-man box all the time.
Yep.
I mean, you can run the ball against an 8-man box.
Yep. And it's not. You don't have to establish the run to do play action.
No.
Play action is the threat of the run.
Right.
And you got to respect that, right? Certain keys you read.
Think of it this way. You think that you have Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
You know that the 49ers can run the ball. They don't have to establish the run. And so you don't think Steve Spagnuolo is building a defense front-wise, linebacker, or however he wants to build it to stop the run? Because the run game's already established. The Niners don't have to establish it in this game.
Yep.
They want to have success, obviously, and things do change in a game if you can't run it at all, and you're getting a lot of 2nd and 9s, which then can also result in a lot of 3rd and 9s and 3rd and longs. But they don't have to establish the run. It's established. That's who they are.
Yeah. No, exactly. How much alike are Christian McCaffrey and Debo in their running styles when they have the ball in their hands?
Well, I'll start by saying that there are many times they're interchangeable in the formation,
mm-hmm.
and I think that's something that Spagnuolo has to have a plan for. Because the one thing you don't want to do, and even with the amount of motion the Niners use, is you don't want to get caught up defensively in all these adjustments pre-snap where, oh, no, he's doing this. I'm going to go here. You don't want to do that. But I think that one of the things that I absolutely love about McCaffrey, he's an explosive back, and we see them run outside a lot, particularly to the left. I think they run to the left more than any team in the league. But I think he's so physical inside. To me, that's one of the things that makes him great. We know he's, has speed and can run away and can, get big explosive runs. But he has a lot of those tough physical runs. Now, Samuel does too. He doesn't run necessarily the same kind of runs that McCaffrey does overall. I mean, he'll run the outside runs, the jet sweeps, those kinds of runs. And once in a while he'll run, offset in the backfield, a normal run, but not as often as McCaffrey. But McCaffrey is so physically tough. Both backs, McCaffrey and Pacheco, are the kind of backs that if it's blocked for 3, they get 7. And I think that's so critical in a run game. One of the things when I watch backs in college that I really study hard is how effective can they be in confined space. Because in the NFL, you have to be able to run in confined space. Pacheco had a run against Baltimore. You probably have seen it was a 12-yard run where literally he made it through. I don't know if you guys remember this. It looked like that you couldn't get an ant through there, and he got through the hole and gained 12 yards. And you have to be able to do that in the NFL.
Yeah. What is it that what's the biggest? Well, let me dial this back. When you've seen, or if you've seen games where Travis Kelce has not been as productive, what do teams do to take him, quote, out of the game or to make it difficult to get him the ball?
That's a fascinating question because teams will double him at times situationally, no question. But I thought that the pass game for the Chiefs this year was out of sync a lot. This was not a great passing game season, which, by the way, is not to say that Mahomes can't come out and have an unbelievable game. We know he's a great player. But their pass game just did not have the same feel to it that it's had in recent years. They were not as explosive. There were games where it just didn't seem like Kelce was throwing the ball an awful lot, particularly early in games. So I don't know if defenses overall did anything. Situationally, all defenses will do certain things to take away great players. But their offense was very odd this year, particularly in the second half. They were not a big second-half team this year, which is very surprising. When they were down, I saw some stat, and I maybe I'll be wrong, where when they were down by more than a touchdown, I think in the fourth quarter, or maybe mid-third quarter on, whatever it was, in previous years they won like 85% of those games. This year they were 2-4. They were not the scoring offense that we've been used to seeing.
Yeah. What's the one matchup that you're really looking forward to seeing how it plays out and how the coordinators and players handle it?
Couple of things, and believe it or not, they involve the passing game.
Okay.
Because I think in base offense for the Chiefs, which they play a lot, I think Diamador Lamore is going to be tested.
Okay.
And I think and even though the Chiefs don't have what you'd consider great receivers, it's still the NFL. It's the Super Bowl. Those are their guys. Yep. They're going to attack
Diamador Lamore. Yeah.
The other side, I'm really curious to see who Snead matches up to for the Chiefs against the Niners. I personally think, and I could be dead wrong, I personally think he's going to match up to Ayuk, not Samuel, but I could be wrong. Snead's physical, McDuffie's really physical too, and those are their two outside corners in their base.
Yep.
When they go nickel or dime, McDuffie goes inside, and they bring in either Watson or Williams to play on the outside, and I would expect the 49ers to go after either Watson or Williams.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey have to have the big game for the Niners to be victorious, you think? Or the run game have to be a big part of it, I should say?
Yes. I mean, that's a relative term.
Yes,
I mean, he doesn't have
I know who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
I had to bring it back.
He doesn't have to go 25 for 175, right.
Yeah.
But I don't think they can win this game with McCaffrey, having 8 carries or
That's
9 carries. Or I think that he has to have 15+, and it has to be meaningful. He can't go 15 for 37. There has to be sustaining runs with the hope that you get a big run as well. And he seems to do that in most every game.
Yeah.
He has one run that, is 30, 35 yards. I think he has to be a meaningful factor.
There we go.
Is it me? Because I say front 7 all the time, and everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Right.
But I feel like I should say front 6 when I'm talking football now because I see a front six more than I see a front seven.
Although in this game you might see a lot more front sevens because of the personnel that the offenses play and the base personnel.
Mm-hmm.
So you might see Burks a lot in this game. I mean, if it's 3 tight ends on the field, you're going to see Burks.
Okay.
So that would be the third linebacker. So it would essentially be a 4-3. For the Chiefs, I'm fascinated by the Chiefs, how they're going to play the 21 personnel. Because one thing about the 49ers is they are so diverse out of 21 personnel. Yeah, are there times that Juszczyk, obviously lines up as a straight fullback? Sure.
Yep.
But, I mean, they also do a ton of motion. McCaffrey is often a motion guy who is detached from the formation. Samuel's all over. I don't think it's automatic that Steve Spagnuolo plays base personnel versus the 49ers 21 personnel.
Interesting.
So that's, again, just a thought that I've had as I start thinking more about this game. Again, I could be wrong, but that's just a thought that I've had.
No.
We're back here live from Allegiant Stadium. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, and John Lund with you. We are in the broadcast booth at Allegiant ahead of Super Bowl 58. That was Greg Cosell who joined us earlier this week. He does every week of the football season. A great breakdown. I'm sure we'll talk to him again next week. To wrap things up here, it is local time here in Las Vegas, 1:14 p.m. We are just under 2.5 hours from kickoff, which we'll have for you right here on KMBR. We'll check in a little bit later here in the broadcast booth with Greg Papa, who will be on the call today for the 49ers right here on KMBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader. But let's get into the players to bank on. Guys, all year, you guys have picked the wrong players to bank on. We'll see if you pick the right one this time. Time for the player to bank on, sponsored by Casino Matrix. Just drop in for gaming, dining, sports. Please gamble responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER and by Grocery Outlet. At Grocery Outlet, you can make otherworldly deals on incredible brand name items for the big day. Welcome to Bargain Bliss. Thank you, Danny.
It was for me.
It was for me. All right, John. Make your pathetic.
Well, if I'm always wrong, then I want to pick Patrick Mahomes, right? Because I'm always wrong. But
that's not cool. That's like
I know. I'm not going to do that. But no, you know what? I think there's a lot of questions around Brock, and I think he's going to play well today. He's done this all season long, but I mean, he got asked if he realized that he looked like. What was it? Lee Harvey Oswald this week, and he didn't even skip a beat. I mean, this is a guy that he's a slow breather. He's got this. I don't think he's going to panic in this game. I think that Brock Purdy's going to play great. There's a lot on the line for him when you talk legacies and everything else, but to finally shut everybody up about what he is. And if you win a Super Bowl, man, it's like, I can't hear you. I got a Super Bowl ring in my ear. So this is big for Brock Purdy. I think he's going to come out and play great on the big stage. And look, we can talk about all the other things, and people don't talk about it because it's too obvious. But it's how the quarterbacks play. I mean, look, he can turn it over. Mahomes can turn it over. They can make the critical plays, lead the critical drives. I think he got a lot of confidence from that Detroit game. He helped. They can't come back. Well, he did it against Packers. Oh, it was only a touchdown. Then he did it against the Lions. I think Brock Purdy's going to play with confidence. I think he's going to come out and play well today.
Yeah, and I think he got a lot of confidence, like you said, from last week. I mean, he checked another box. He comes back, not playing very well in the first half, and he comes out in the second half, especially fourth quarter. And he basically won the football game with his legs.
Yeah.
I mean, he made some great throws, good decisions, but he ran for a couple pretty important first downs. I'm going to say on the offense, I'm going to say Brandon Ayuk. I mean, I think Brandon Ayuk is a guy that's been very consistent this entire football season. I think he's been overlooked a little bit. He's had a fantastic season, but I think today is going to be a big day for Brandon Ayuk.
1,000 yards for Brandon Ayuk again. That's a good pick, too. Why don't I go with – I'll stick on the offensive side as well. I'm going to go with George Kittle as my player to bank on today, a guy who is a constant tone setter, and I think this is a game for the 49ers where tone is going to be a big thing, pace and energy early on in the game. The second half against – the Lions started with Deebo Samuel getting the ball, and they just kept feeding Deebo. There were some loud runs, some hard runs. I think getting the ball into Kittle's hands, to Deebo's hands, creating that physicality early, because, again, if the Niners go up, I think it's going to be tough for the Chiefs to get back into this game. I think if the Niners can come out and put up 2 scores or get ahead by 2 scores and then try to suppress some of that offense for the Chiefs, they may start to press. They may have to get a little bit aggressive like we saw them do against Baltimore, and it did not fare well for them. They're going to need, I think, more than 17 points to win this game. If they get to 21, though, Dennis, as you pointed out, 10-0 on the season. So for me, it's going to be a lot about the physicality, the physical players. So yes, Christian McCaffrey, absolutely Deebo Samuel, but I'm going to go with a guy who's been here and promised he would be back to this game, and that's George Kittle. That's my pick today.
I'd love all that because the thing is, Kittle is it's double for him. He blocks, and he's a key there. He catches the ball, he's a key there. And, if I'm George Kittle, I'm going in this game, and I hear all about Travis Kelce, and it has nothing to do with whether he's dating Taylor Swift. It has to do with, God, look at this guy that gets targeted all the time, and he gets all these opportunities. And for as good as Kansas City's defense is, there are weaknesses. Straight at them in the run is a weakness. Safeties are a weakness. And if they're going to think that they can, their corners are really great. Tranquil's had a good season. Nick Bolton's had a good season, 32, had a return for a fumble for a touchdown against the Eagles in last year's Super Bowl. But George Kittle could have opportunities against these safeties, especially if these safeties blitz, which Steve Spagnuolo likes to do. That could pop George Kittle for some plays, and I agree with you. And then in terms of Ayuk, I agree with you 100% there. Look, these are really good corners, but Brandon Ayuk is a really good receiver. And I'm not talking about off the face mask stuff. I could see them taking some shots down the field to try to loosen this defense up and have Brandon Ayuk make some big plays today.
We are under a half an hour from, under 2.5 hours, pardon me, from kickoff here at Super Bowl 58. We are going to catch up with both members of the broadcast team, both Tim Ryan and Greg Papa, a little bit later. When we come on back, though, some great stuff. A little bit of the year in review. We got awards that got handed out this week. Christian McCaffrey named the Offensive Player of the Year. We'll play that speech for you. He had a great speech after winning that at the NFL Honors the other night. And on the weekend that the 49ers are playing in the Super Bowl, a guy who did not get one with him but was on this team that lost to the Baltimore Ravens, Patrick Willis, inducted into the Hall of Fame. We've got more for you on the year in review. The 49ers and the Chiefs meet in Super Bowl 58, and they'll do so right here on the Sports Leader. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, and John Lem with you. We are live here from Allegiant Stadium, the broadcast booth at Allegiant Stadium here in Las Vegas. Ahead of Super Bowl 58. Greg Papa, who will be on the call today with Tim Ryan here on KMBR 104.5 and 680. The Sports Leader is now in the booth. We'll have a conversation with him and with Tim in just a couple of minutes here. But just briefly, walking back a little bit, John, because we were talking before about the NFL honors that were handed out the other night. Christian McCaffrey was awarded the Offensive Player of the Year award, and really that's become anybody who's the best offensive player not at the quarterback position is kind of the way that's played out. Now, overwhelmingly, and it was almost unanimous, the MVP to Lamar Jackson. One vote goes to Josh Allen. Brock Purdy, McCaffrey didn't get any of those, but when you look at the season that Christian McCaffrey had, and we knew that when he was traded over here last year, he was a different talent than we had ever seen in this backfield, specifically under Kyle Shanahan. But what did this year for you and for him, do you think, mean in the grand scheme of it all, when you put it in perspective? Because the running back, we started this year talking about the devalued position of the running back and how we just weren't going to see guys get paid the way McCaffrey is now.
I think it just shows how special he is. I mean, they didn't need to justify that trade. They knew what it meant to them. But he can catch it, he can run it, he can throw it, he can do everything. But it's also the kind of guy he is, the tone he sets for the offense. You know, George Kittle does it one way. Christian McCaffrey does it another way. He's tough. He was much more banged up than people realize at times. He's always, you take for granted he gets in the end zone. And then he's done this since day one, and you can really go back to his first real game. His first game was actually against the Chiefs, and that lost, but his first real game was that next week against the Rams. And he just pivots the entire field. It's a lot like Steph Curry. The defense is constantly watching him, which opens it up for everybody else. So you look at the numbers that got him that award, but the reality of it is he is just as valuable as a guy that the defense has to watch, who then opens it up for everybody else.
There was some the NFL coaching carousel has come to an end this offseason. Really, we had 8 jobs open. Basically, Bill Belichick leaves New England, doesn't get a job anywhere. We found out this week from the Falcons and Arthur Blank that he was not demanding full or complete control. Greg will join us in just a few minutes after we take a quick break. So Greg Papa's going to sit with us in just a minute. One more for you. Kyle Shanahan now, John, and we'll talk to Greg about this. Kyle Shanahan, is he the best coach in football now to not have a Super Bowl title?
I don't think there's any question. There's not many games that he would go into where you'd say, okay, Kansas City has a coaching advantage. And I don't know if I'd go that far, but you have to say it because Andy Reid has won Super Bowls, and it's something we got into and we talked about, which is, once you get one of those things, then you get to a different realm. So Andy Reid was in a similar position to where Kyle Shanahan is, which is he's gotten close, never won it. So you never elevated him to that certain level. But when and if Kyle Shanahan wins one of these, hopefully it is today, then he'll be up there too. It's as simple as that, because if you haven't done it, then you can say as great as you are. I think Kyle Shanahan, to me, probably the second best coach. I mean, we lost Belichick with us, Carol. I think he's the second best coach in the league right now. But you look at a guy like Andy Reid, he's got to be the best, because his team goes to the Super Bowl every year, and for the most part, they win it.
And when he was in the NFC, he was going to at least the NFC Championship damn near every year. Adam Copeland, the Super Bowl champion, Dennis Brown, and John Lem with you live from Allegiant Stadium. We are under 2.5 hours till kickoff of Super Bowl 58, and the man who will be on the call, Greg Papa, joins us next, only here on the Sports Leader.
I used to have my son do it. I said, "Damn, that wasn't Sharon
this your son over
McFadden."
here?
That's my son.
You're the luckiest young man in the world.
Oh, he wouldn't say so.
Does he go to bed every night thinking, "Thank God my dad is Greg Papa"?
Hardly. That was Kevin Harlan, who will be, I think he's in the booth next to us, isn't he?
I just saw him.
Saw him right next door. And the voice you hear right here, this is Greg Papa, of course. He'll be on the call today for the Niners and the Chiefs. Second time.
You are smiling, brother.
I'm smiling.
Welcome to the Super Bowl.
I'm giddy about it, man. I'm nervous. I'm anxious. How you feeling? What's going on?
Nervous. I'm anxious. A lot of Niner fans here. I'm reading 58%. So on the field, people are just yelling. I've already worn out 4 touchdowns. I just do the setup, and then they do the Demetrius Flanagan fouls, and the whole section went, "Sad friend." So I think where the Chiefs people kicked me off their sideline. I took the first bus out this morning. And you see the get up on Christian with the black pinstripe shirt?
Like kind of
you see those sunglasses?
Yeah.
Bruce got them from, we'll tell the story during the game. They're from Bruce Lee.
Oh, really?
Connection to Bruce Lee gave him those sunglasses. So Christian has game face on. He's getting a cup of coffee, and George was on that bus. I never take the first bus except for Super Sunday. I did it in San Diego and did it in Miami. It's just now it starts to get a little.
It's getting real.
Yeah, a little bit too much. So it's a great environment. It's great to be here. They're obviously a tremendous challenge. You got that quarterback and a great defense and a great running game. But I like our plan. I think we're going to run it. The goal is to get to 30 runs. If you can get 35, they're going to do all different types of runs. They got some interesting plays in the playbook for some interesting people. So a prop bet here and there out of the obscure could be good. And then I think we're going to make some changes in the secondary as well. Normally I give you guys, I spill the tea.
Sure. No, don't.
But we're 2 hours till kickoff.
2:06 and 57 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, normally we do it like right before kick, so I can't do that.
I know Andy Reid's listening, so yeah we got to.
Which one? The fat? I saw Andy walking in. I said, "Is that fat Andy Reid? Is that real Andy?"
Yeah, there's a fake one, a real one.
I said, "You better cancel the double cheeseburger after, Coach."
Yeah, absolutely. So just the whole outlook on a game like this, because it's rare that the Niners don't have the experience, but Brock is new to this, and Christian's new to this, and Trent is new to this, and there's a number of guys. I mean, go on down the line here.
Yeah.
Kansas City won this game last year, so you kind of talked about this. We're all kind of a little bit anxious, and we're feeling it, and we're not playing in the game. So does it take a minute for these guys to settle into this thing?
Yes, very much so. And I go back to my first Super Bowl 37 in San Diego, and it was a weird kickoff time in San Diego, like 3:18, and it was a strobe effect. I couldn't see the field, and it was weird. And then you were there for Super Bowl 54. Yeah. I was really hyped for that game. I'm calm as hell today, and I'm not doing anything. But the point is, I think for the guys that have been here before, they know the deal. And to me, it's the Super Bowl. I get it, but it's the final game of the year. This is it. I just soaked up every minute of going to walkthrough yesterday, and the practices at Lee, at the performance center over at 49-49. Just this is it. Yeah. Even if win, lose, or draw, this is the last game of the year. So you soak that up. Obviously, they're hyper focused, but I do sense a sense of we've been here before. But for the guy Trent, I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about Christian. I'm not worried about Ayuk. I think Brock just needs to settle in because he's the one that's going to handle the ball. He's got the dexterity. He's got to find his breathing early in the game. They got a good plan, which I think will calm him down with the openers early in the game. And then I remember, John, when we were in Miami, Patrick Mahomes was a little rattled in that game. The Niners defense confused him with their tight cover 3, but he was grounding slants. This was not like him. And then he finally, kicked it in with 7:13 to play, and he was able to get out of there with a Super Bowl MVP.
Greg Papa with us here in the broadcast booth at Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah, and hopefully that's the same kind of thing. And I think the biggest question you and I got asked on Radio Row this year was, can they find their defense? And they're talking about specifically the playoff games. And we know what Andy Reid is going to do, but it all comes down to the 15 with the experience. So can they figure out a way? And it's not good enough to just pressure him. It's not good enough to just hit him. You've got to get him on the ground.
Yes, but you also got to take his receivers out. And one message Steve Wilkes had to the guys yesterday, he talked to every coach on defense and every player, you got to get your hands on these guys. You've got to reroute them. Bill Vinovich's crew, and it's an all-star cast, but they're known for not throwing flags. They're going to let you be physical in certain areas of the field. You've got to get to Kelsey. You cannot give him a free release. That is the key. But Andy's smart. He's going to bunch him. He's going to stack him. He's going to motion him. Hell, he may line him up next to Mahomes and treat him like a bag. So, but we're going to be physical.
with these guys. We're going to do a little bit of what Belichick did to Marshall Faulk with all of them, but in particular Kelsey and Rashee Rice. You got to reroute those guys. And then as you get to Mahomes, they're going to do a little bit of what they did with Jalen Hurts. But, I mentioned that to a couple of guys, and yes, it's the same principle, but we can't mush the rush. We got to go get him. Yeah. But you want to keep him in the pocket. So there'll be times they'll bring 5. If you bring 4, there's a natural hatch for him to get out. If you bring 5 and they come all together, say you bring Fred inserted behind the original 4, or, you bring somebody off the slot like Demo, and the Chiefs do it all the time. They blitz their corners incessantly. So Brock's got to be alert to that. So reroute the receivers. If you just make Mahomes hold the ball, there's a great stat of 3 seconds at eternity in the pocket. If he holds the ball for 3 or more seconds, he's not Mahomes. If he gets out and runs, that's a problem. And I have seen a lot of him on tape earlier in the year. They've gotten tighter since the Cincinnati game. They committed 26 pre-snap penalties on offense going into the Raider game on Christmas. They've committed 2 since to win 5 in a row, the last 2 in the regular season, and 3 playoff wins. They've simplified things. But when he holds the ball, it is indecisive. There are times he'll just get out, roll to the sideline, and throw the ball away.
In your mind, or in the games you've called 2 previous of these Super Bowls, how much is experience a factor in these?
Well, I think what John was talking about, just calming your heart rate. I think guys know what the deal is and the enormity of it. You just see stars on the field, and I got off before it really began to get hyphy down there. I just but it's starting to ramp up, and then you gotta just find your space. There's, some guys in an ultra pressurized situation like this, and I get like that when you think you're going to be your most nervous in life. For some reason, a sense of calm comes over you, where if it's a preseason game and there's 10,000 people here, no one's watching, now you get nervous. So I hope Brock will find his calm, because he is the Brock steady, Brock of Gibraltar, as Tim calls him. He'll find it. You just hope he finds it early in the game, and if he doesn't, he's got a galaxy of stars around him to lean on him. Fred's going to go out and call the coin toss, and he's going to call tails. What's the line on that, by the way? Tails versus heads.
It was minus 115 both sides.
How does that work?
Juiced evenly.
Either way,
if it gets juiced, if it's not juiced to save, then I'm questioning it all. I should be juiced harder on heads than on tails.
Well, juice for tails, because tails never fails. Fred calls it all the time. We want him to win the toss and then defer. You win a game like this, you want to start on defense, where the nervous energy, unless you're in the second year and you bust a coverage or something, it's better to have that nervous energy on defense, because you can go whack somebody.
The creative ways they're going to run the ball, like you said, they had a big plan for Debo. He got hurt against Green Bay. But I want Christian to touch the ball a ton, but I also think that Debo is going to be a big factor in this game, the creative different ways. In Super Bowl 54 against Kansas City, they came out with big Debo in the first quarter, completely shocked Kansas City, and we just didn't see a lot of it from there. How creative do you expect the running game?
Very creative. Every kind of run you can possibly imagine. And, counter runs, powers, outside zone, inside zone. Kansas City does not defend the wide zone well. They don't defend the inside zone well. But I think they may go to a 6-1 defense today. If you're looking at every Super Bowl ever, and you look at Belichick's Super Bowl against the Rams and Sean McVay in the outside zone, and where did he get that game plan? From Vic Fangio and the Chicago Bears, an obscure game that year, and Belichick jumped into, and we've seen a lot of 5-man fronts against 34 defenses where both outside guys are up on the line. I mean, a 34 really is a 5-2 front. Spags may just jump into a 6-man front to open the game and choke you off, because he's got corners that can play press man. Yep. His safeties are not good, but they can get those guys. And, Willie Gay's going to play today. Chanel's going to play. They got Bolton. They got Tranquil, Karlaftis, obviously Jones. They can move Jones outside to end. They're going to do a lot of different things today. I would not be surprised if they jump into a 6-man front and go to a 6-1-4 defense and let their corners just play press man, let their safeties come down. Now, that's dangerous, but those guys will pressure, and they feel like that way, not only can we go get the quarterback, but we're going to choke off all of their running lanes, whether they run it wide with the outside zone. Hell, we're going to have 6 D linemen stretched out. So look and see if for some snaps. And I have no idea what they're going to do, but everybody, looks at what Belichick has done in Super Bowls past against the stretch running game, and he jumped into his 6-man front.
We're under 2 hours till kick, and Greg...
I'm getting nervous. 2 hours?
Greg, Papa, Tim Ryan will be on the call shortly here. We'll hand it over to Greg and Tim to take you up till kickoff. I'm sure you're going to walk through a little bit of what's gone on this year and maybe tell a little bit more about Christian McCaffrey being like water through the tackles today.
Absolutely.
That's what we're looking for. Greg, have a great call.
And you know what we got here? Show that to the stream.
Show them. What are we looking at? What am I seeing?
Luck be a ladybug tonight.
Oh, you got it with you.
There we
We
go.
got a ladybug. They've all got ladybugs.
We've got
That's
plenty
awesome,
more to
man.
come here from the broadcast
Have a
booth
great call.
at
Thank you, bro.
Allegiant Stadium. Super Bowl 58 right around the corner. Tim Ryan is going to join us just a few minutes to preview this one as well. And we got the Steve Young Show and the 49er Players Spotlight. That's all coming up. Super Bowl 58, and it's only here on the Sports Leader.
I got off before it really began to get hyphy down there.
Adam Copeland back here with your 49er player spotlight ahead of Super Bowl 58. And we're going to go to a guy who we've said is the focal point of this 49er offense all season long, but specifically as we head into this game, and that is Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey, an incredible season after he was traded over to the 49ers last year from the Carolina Panthers. Shows up on like a Thursday, and then he plays 22 snaps against the same Kansas City Chiefs before ultimately the 49ers take a loss. Brock Purdy takes over the next week, and the rest, as they say, is history. He was awarded the Offensive Player of the Year award at the NFL Honors earlier this week, and here's what he had to say about taking home that illustrious award.
This award means a lot. I have so much gratitude for so many people. It's obviously a little bit weird accepting an individual award the week of the Super Bowl. I think that's definitely my main focus right now, but I feel extremely honored to receive this award, and I think it's not just an award for me, but an award for the entire offense and all of my teammates who have got me to this point. I'm nothing without them, and I appreciate every single one of them.
Christian McCaffrey, 21 total touchdowns on the season, 7 receiving, 14 rushing. The guy was incredible. He's the number one player in the offense. He's the number one running back in all of football, and he is the 2023 Offensive Player of the Year. That's why heading into Super Bowl 58, he is this week's 49er Player Spotlight. Adam Copeland back here from Allegiant Stadium. Steve Young joins us every week on Wednesdays in the 5 o'clock hour of the football season. It's the best half hour on radio. Steve this week said that the rush defense for the 49ers is absolutely the key to winning this game.
The thing that concerns the 49ers the most is that how can we energize this defense on the from the run, and now that they're going to face the Joe Burrow, or they're going to face the Josh Allen, they're going to face Lamar Jackson, they're going to face Patrick Mahomes. I keep mentioning those names. Those guys are the guys that can take advantage. So, if our defense cannot stop the run, and then there's Patrick Mahomes, then I think that's a huge problem. And so we know that Eric's hurt. We know that Hargreaves hurt. We got guys that are banged up, and so what we saw with the Lions is what I think most everybody you're talking about that thinks the Chiefs is because, wait a second, you're telling me the Lions ran up and down the field at home, 49ers at home, and they're up 24-7? So I think if you think about that narrative, that's like easy to get there, but you get down to the football, blocking and tackling, it's really those four guys in the defensive line. If those four guys can control the line of scrimmage, control the running game, and then can put pressure on Patrick Mahomes, then they're going to win. They're going to win, 100%. No question, if those four guys can do it. But if those four guys can't do it and they can't kind of contain the run and they have to bring a fifth guy to cause grief, that's when Patrick Mahomes, you bring the fifth guy. It's exponential difference between 4 and 5 when you rush the passer for what the opportunity is for a really smart quarterback. And so it really comes down to the game, and I have to say this, it's those four guys in a defensive front, and can they kind of do those two things, stop the run and put pressure on Patrick Mahomes. If they can, we got a Super Bowl champion.
We are back here live from Allegiant Stadium ahead of Super Bowl 58, and we are getting ready to hand it over to the broadcast crew, to Greg Papa and to Tim Ryan. We chatted with Greg, and now a conversation with Tim Ryan. Tim, what's up, man? How you doing, bro?
Out of my freaking mind, boys. Let's go.
I know.
I hear you, bro.
Obviously, it's been marinating for 2 weeks since the Lion game, and to be here all week and just to watch the build-up, and it's the last couple of days have seemed like, double days in terms just of the time and trying to pass the time and get to this point. I will say this team is absolutely ready to rip, play their best football. The track is fast, certainly different from what they practiced on all week. Hopefully that's a non-story today, but I think the guys are ready to go.
You're the perfect guy to ask. Can they get this defense together the last 2 weeks?
They have to.
Yep.
The run defense certainly against the Lions was unacceptable and atrocious in the first half of that game. Now in the second half they came in and did better. And defensive linemen, and I've talked to all these guys, and they know this. It's no secret. You got to disengage. You got to shed blockers. If you don't shed those guys, they typically keep blocking, and then you have some challenges. So I think they will be better today. I think that Kansas City, if you looked at them, they've been a pass-heavy team all year. Why wouldn't you be with Patrick Mahomes? But they've kind of flipped the script in the playoffs, and they've run it 30 times a game. And Pacheco is healthy. I can guarantee you they're going to run the crack toss, some of those runs out on the perimeter. He's a violent, herky-jerky runner and is a hard cutter. But it's really about, getting off blocks, knowing where your fit is, the linebackers anticipating some of those perimeter runs, the nickel corner anticipating some of those perimeter runs. Those are the guys that have to trigger, get in the alley, run downhill, and hit these guys in the mouth. And then once you stop that run, and hopefully they're able to do that and make Kansas City one-dimensional, and of course a fast start offensively would go a long way in doing that, then you got to keep Patrick Mahomes in the Tanbark box, because if he's going to want to drag you out on the playground. And he's going to want to play hero ball, and he's really, really good at it in terms of being able to spray the ball anywhere or use his legs to pick up some big first downs. So that's the area that they're going to have to, get the brakes on him, and play some tight coverage, obviously. The defensive line's got to win this game, and it'll go a long way in doing that. I went back and watched the Bucs and the Chiefs when the Bucs took them down. That was the story of the game, and you guys remember it was that four-man rush. And the caliber of players that the 49ers have on that line, and Bosa's been playing great. Eric's just getting back in the mix, obviously, in the playoffs. The Hargrave digger. Javon Hargrave has got to have the game of his life tonight, as does Chase Young, and then you can start talking about the rotational players. But that front four has got to ignite a monster movie in this one today.
Tim, have a great call today, man. We're excited about this.
Appreciate you guys.
Have a great call, man. We'll see you soon. All right, Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, the Super Bowl champion, John Lund signing off here from Allegiant Stadium. We're wrapping things up as we get ready to hand it over to Greg Papa and to Tim Ryan, who will take you all the way up till kickoff at 3:30 here from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. And then they'll be with you for some of the post, and then we'll get on with you for the post game as well. Get your thoughts, your calls, your texts, your tweets, all that good stuff right here on KNBR. All right, kickoff is at 3:30. We'll hand it over to Greg and to Tim. John, can I get a final thought from you? Are you just going to run out of here, man?
No, I just look.
You're all finished, man?
Tim's got me all jacked up. Greg has me all jacked up. I know all week long people were Chiefs, and I get it, and it's Mahomes and all those kind of things, but I think we're hoisting 6, man. As Tim always says, let's party with Lombardi. Let's do it in Vegas. There's no better place.
Dennis, how you feeling, man?
I feel good. I mean, there's no effect. I have no effect of this football game. I'm excited for these guys, for the opportunity. I've been there. I've done that, and it's special. It's a special feeling. And I just hope they're focused. This is going to be the most important game a lot of these guys play in their entire career. Take advantage of it. Go out and do what you have to do. Take care of business. Execute. Don't make mistakes. And you leave with a Super Bowl win.
You're just tired of being the run of the litter, man. You want somebody else to have one.
I am. I want somebody, because everybody else tells me I only got one ring. Eric Wright, Keena Turner, all those guys say, you only got one?
Yeah.
So I got is one.
Let's add a few people to that list, though. Let's have a few guys join that list.
That'd be awesome, because it's a small fraternity, and a lot of guys don't get the opportunity.
Well, it has been a long season, and the NFL year comes to a close today right here in Las Vegas, the first ever Super Bowl from Las Vegas, Nevada. For John Lund and the Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, for Tim Ryan, Greg Papa, Matt Mayoko, thanks for joining us earlier, and for the guys back in the studio, Tim and Danny, great season, fellas. It's been a blast, and we got one more to do here. Coming up next, it's the Niners, it's the Chiefs. It's Super Bowl 58, and it's right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680. It's the Sports Leader.